What's going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown, episode 92. I am your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
Sup, people? How you doing?
Brett Murdock.
I'm masquerading as Rachel today.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
And our Otanime brother, and spoiler alert brother, Carlos Romero.
Hey guys, how's it going?
All right, no Brian action tonight because he needs sleep because he's going to see a lady friend tomorrow night, if you know what I mean.
You could not have put that in a dirtier sounding way.
Hey, I try to keep it as clean as possible.
He's saving up his stamina for his lady friend.
Yeah, you know, things happen, right?
And then you find out if she's just going to visit his mom.
Yeah, no, he needs stamina to go on the Ferris wheel or whatever they do in England.
No. Yeah, he's like, I need stamina for this for his lady friend. Flash forward to him like putting up shelves for his mom.
Yeah, see, exactly. You don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so episode 92. That means we officially beat out the Throwdown at episode 91. So kiss our ass, old Throwdown. It's all about the new Throwdown now.
Yeah.
I like how you're talking shit on past you.
Yeah, man, fuck that guy. He was an asshole. You know, they were all assholes.
They were just an immature bunch of douchebags.
Exactly. Now the new guys are refined douchebags.
Dude, I like to say I'm aging like a fine wine. I become better, more valuable, and more bitter each year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. You know, we're still assholes, still douchebags, but we cut with more precision now. You know?
Now I'm a 32-year-old douchebag.
Yes. Awesomeness. All right, so we got a lot of crazy things to talk about now. This is going to be an interesting topic because most of us probably don't care about this, but it's literally the biggest fucking thing in gaming right now. But we got to talk about it. Motherfucking Pokémon Go.
Dude, why are you mad about talking about this, Tony?
What happened?
Why are you so reticent to talk about this?
I'm not reticent. It's just I don't have any emotional investment in it. But
yes, you do. Hold on a second. Oh my God, really? Oh, I'm so glad I'm the one to point this out. Tony.
Uh-oh.
We have been validated, sir.
How's that, sir?
What did I say when I heard about the success of this? When Nintendo stock jumped about 10%, I was like, man, if only somebody could have figured out that taking Pokemon or other beloved Nintendo IPs and putting them on a multi-plat system, making them available to everybody, would be a huge formula for success. Oh yeah, everybody on the fucking Throwdown has said this for 5 goddamn years.
Yes, you mean Nintendo going multi-plat. Yeah, there you go. By the way, people yelled at me for saying that shit. They were like, no, what are you talking about?
Dude, I know.
So
Everybody's so mad about it, but here it is. Case point. Beginning and fucking put to bed, people. Nintendo needs to be third party. End of fucking story.
I love it. You're right. I want to get to that for a second, but first I'm going to start off with a story, right? I was in Manhattan the other night, right? Must have been 11 p.m., right? Chilling, right? I swear, I'm not exaggerating, not hyperbole. 60% of the people in that fucking park, what were they doing? Ooh, looking for fucking Pokemon. It's crazy, man. And like, if you go on Twitter, nothing but Pokemon. Like, I swear, every geek site, including ours, is becoming Pokemon Central now. There's so many crazy stories. My favorite one is the Holocaust Museum. Asked people to please stop playing Pokemon in the fucking museum because apparently there's Pokemon in there, you know, crazy shit. And I still predict not only because somebody has already found a dead body, right, using this thing. I predict this headline: Pokemon Go player finds the body of another Pokemon Go player. Because you're hearing about people. Some dudes got stabbed. Motherfuckers was getting robbed. 2 dudes jumped off a cliff. This is crazy, man.
All I'm hearing is Pokemon players rediscover the joys of playing outside.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about something else earlier. I don't know.
But before we move on to it, like I want to address this dead body thing. Everybody should find a dead body. Like that is kind of part of growing up. Like, you should wander through the woods until you find something horrendous that scars you for the rest of your life.
You mean like the movie Stand By Me?
Yeah, that's kind of part of growing. Like, and maybe I'm showing my age here because I used to like crawl around the suburbs of Chicago as a dirty little white kid. But that's kind of what you fucking do, man. Like, hang out for the fucking corner store and buy microwave cheeseburgers with the $2 that you managed to scrounge up, or troll through the woods, or walk along the creek and hey, there's a dead body. Like, the only difference now is that there's Pokemon involved.
Yeah, you're right about that. Now I gotta ask a morose question. Who here on this panel hasn't seen a dead body before?
I've only seen my own family members dead.
Yeah, same here.
I've seen my family members dead. I'm pretty sure I saw a dead bum in my neighborhood once.
Yeah.
You know, okay, yeah, I'm with Red on. Everybody needs to see a dead body at least once. Man you up, you know. But yeah, Pokemon Go, crazy phenomenon.
Well,
Yeah.
well, if it's your family, you're probably crying.
Nah, I didn't cry. Whatever, you know. People die. That's what they do. You know.
That's because you're a cyborg.
How's that? People die, dude. That's what happens, you know. Now you made me lose my Pokemon Go. There's so many angles we go with. There's so many fucking angles. But I guess I'm gonna ask, why is this thing so fucking popular? Why has it just blown up like this?
Because it's exactly what everybody wanted.
Yeah, it's the AR version of the Pokemon MMO that everyone wanted. Everyone wanted to be able to interact with other people, real people, right? And battle dynamically, and also because it's multi-plat, because it's on every smartphone.
Yes, multi-plat Nintendo game, people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. At a time, remember they said at one point that their major franchises would never be on mobile. By the way, so I love how this works. Like no
they're
company.
still technically saying it's not. They're still like it's a hackneyed half version of the game, and the only true Pokemon game is going to be on Nintendo. But
Oh, right.
I have a feeling they're going to change their mind at this point.
I'd like them to collectively pull their heads out of their asses and realize that this game is bigger than anything they could put out on their actual system.
Totally, because they can reach more people.
Yes,
you know?
and if they add if Niantic adds battle and trade into this, then what the hell do you need Sun and Moon for? What the hell do you need to play on 3DS for?
That's a damn good point.
Let's also not forget that there's a lot of bandwagon fans that are playing this just because everyone's playing it. And if you think about it, we'd had Angry Birds, we'd had Candy Crush. What's going on right now before Pokemon Go? There wasn't anything.
Flappy Bird, remember that shit?
Flappy Bird was something. I mean, now it's Pokemon Go and everyone's playing it. My friend texted me this
man,
today.
please chill out with that noise, man. You open up a bag of chips, shit.
Yo, man, this shit is sensitive.
Yeah, dude, chill. Just put yourself on mute. Manny's actually in New York right now, people. You know, we'll plug your shit later. Anyway, Carlos, go ahead.
Yeah, my friend, his boss told him, is like, how does Pokemon Go work? And everyone in my office where I work is playing Pokemon Go, and it's freaking crazy.
Yo, you know things have gotten to the next level when fucking Hillary Clinton is talking about this shit.
Oh, God.
You see this? Okay, I was about to call her a very bad word. Anyway, so if you saw her, she was on some campaign. She's like, we're going to bring more jobs to America. We're going to bring, engineering, blah, 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 and coding, because we need more coders to make games like Pokemon Go, so people could Pokemon Go to the polls. So,
Jesus.
Oh, my God.
It was bad. It was horrible.
Thanks, Grandma.
But this is Brett. What's that phrase you like? The cultural zeitgeist. It's hit that point now. You know, everybody's talking about this shit.
I went to Good Sense like day before yesterday to pick up a sandwich for Rachel and I got out there and I pull out my phone to pull up the order, and immediately everybody behind the counter goes, "Are you playing Pokemon Go?" And I'm like, "What?" Like, yes, I'm playing Pokemon Go in the middle of your store, ordering a goddamn sandwich, and like the sarcasm was just lost on people. And I actually had this errant thought of like, is there a Pokemon in here or something? Like, you motherfuckers are sitting here all day being like, hey man, you want a soda with that Pokemon? Oh, Bulbasaur! Like, I have no idea, but I do want to state that I think part of the success of this game is the fact that you have a whole group of people who do not understand the concept of socialization and playing outside. Like, as much as I hate to sound like I'm looking down on like a whole generation of millennials, it's like millennials are like, oh my god, I can play a video game with a friend, and I can go on to this place called The Real World. This place is huge, and there's no rendering between zones, and you're like,
there's no rendering between zones.
Oh my god, the graphics in this world are so amazing. There's no loading.
This is great. Look at the graphics, man. How many teraflops does it take to make these kind of graphics?
Oh my god, they're using real-time shadows and global illumination.
Yeah, the draw distance is amazing.
And not even just that, but other people. Like, I hate to say it like this, but like, yeah, this is what it's like to have friends.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Well, Well,
Well,
there definitely is that disconnect that has happened with actually a lot of the generation after ours, where it's like they don't do the thing, like they don't go out, they don't do all the things that. I mean,
They
yeah, go
connect
ahead.
via intent and through internet and like gaming.
Yeah.
And like I'm not just arbitrarily talking shit. I actually physically believe that I don't think millennials go out and physically get together and do a whole lot of group activities other than just like, hey, we should hang out and go to the bar or something like that. Like you don't make, like, when I was a kid, and I hate to sound super gay about it, but like you made activities. You're like, hey man, we're gonna do like a scavenger hunt or something today. Like you had a goal in mind. Like even getting a bunch of people together in the same room to play like D&D or something like that. It was very much, we're doing this thing, but the thing itself is secondary to the getting together face to face and having a social experience with people. And I think this game has forced that back into the real world. And in a world where we are so glued to our phones that we never actually acknowledge each other, suddenly we're playing outside and playing together again. And I think for a lot of people, this is the first time that they've really had that, because the generation under us was kind of kept inside a lot. I don't think a lot of people 10 years younger than me got to play outside unsupervised.
yeah, because exactly, parents keep them inside. By the way, you kind of reminded me of a really funny gift that I've seen flying around. Okay, you remember this scene in The Matrix when Neo wakes up? He's like, "Why do my eyes hurt?" And Morpheus is like, "Because you've never used them before." So they took that scene. It's just like, okay, first time Pokemon Go players, why do my legs hurt? Because you've never used them before. Yeah, Brett, I agree with you. I think that's a part of the component. The other thing I kind of think is going on too, because it's a lot of facets, right? I think there's so much horrible shit going on in the world. I think this is a nice distraction from all that, something nice and fun for people to do instead of like worrying about going outside and getting killed. Like, let's go outside and have
Right?
fun, you know?
Yeah.
So I think
Holy
it's a good
shit, like
distraction.
every 3 days now, man. Like, what
Yeah,
the
dude.
fuck?
So I think this was a good, like, catharsis for all that. I mean, obviously, we had what happened tonight happen. It's like, geez, can we have a break from this nonsense? But I think Pokemon, at least for a week, was able to get people away from all that stuff, So that's probably a reason for it. And, it's just like you said, it's a social aspect. I think a lot of these people to like, oh my God, I go out with my friends and do an activity? How is that possible?
I think
I get to go outside.
I think
And
you guys are giving
do
them too much
something?
credit though, because
What's up?
they are getting together, but all they're doing is just looking at their phones, walking around.
Well, I mean,
Well,
okay, the phone. Okay, obviously, there's still that type of generation that needs to look at the phone constantly, right? So you still need that aspect in there, but at least they're going outside looking at their phone.
Well, no, they are talking to each other. They do converse when they congregate, but I'll say like it's just this happy accident that it took Nintendo, the guys who are so far behind
Yeah.
the pulse of everything else, to work with a company like Niantic, who's made up of former Google engineers, to come up with a game that is more social than anything that has come before it.
isn't there a thing they did before, which was Google related and Pokemon related?
They had a deal with Google Maps, and they were probably testing the waters for this game, where you'd go on Google Maps, and actually Kristen had pointed this out to me, and in random places around the maps you'd find Pokemon,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that was probably the test run for this thing, right?
Oh, that was
Mhm.
Ingress. Are you guys familiar with Ingress?
No.
Ingress?
Crickets?
What's that?
Okay. Ingress was an augmented reality MMO put out by the same company about 4 years ago. It's pretty much Pokemon Go without the Pokemon on top. And what happened was when they released in kind of an alpha beta situation where it connected with Google Maps, but then it required the player base to actually go out into the real world and geotag locations. So if you're playing Pokemon Go and you come up and a landmark is this cool statue and it has a picture of the statue, that's because at one time an Ingress player mapped that out, took a picture of it, submitted it, and it got accepted. And that's where all of your Pokemon gyms were places where Ingress players have submitted to be hotspots. And all of the places that the Pokemon actually spawn are geotagged locations of Ingress player hotspots. So I could go down to like Union Station in Kansas City and tag that area as a Pokemon gym and like take a cool picture of it and submit it, and then everybody who's around there will see that picture, and then they can go to that Pokemon gym. or if everybody just happens to stop at this fucking Starbucks or McDonald's or what have you, and they stay in there for 2 minutes with their phone and their phone has Ingress, the game actually registers this is like a cross point where a lot of players are intersecting, and so it'll put things there. And they just took all of this metadata and used it to be the structure behind Pokémon Go. So every time you find a Pokémon, that's a place where a lot of Ingress players have congregated. And every time you find a Pokéstop, that's a place an Ingress player has tagged. And I think the places where you find a gym is both of those high-traffic tagged areas.
Interesting.
So yeah, everything you see is done by players, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah. A couple other things. One, apparently, I don't know if we posted this, but I know I saw it in our background. A group of players, it was 4 guys, actually created this game 4 years ago. Like they did as an experiment, like an augmented reality Pokemon game that you play in the real world. And the rules are exactly the same as the normal one, which is crazy. And then I also need to bring up the obvious, right? Because everyone's talking about how this game's so innovative. You've never seen anything like it before. Sony did the same thing with Invisibles. Like literally, like what? 6 years ago, like it was a PSP game. You go around and in the real world, and you take pictures of these animals and you capture them and you train them and you battle them. Invisibles was a Pokemon ripoff, to be fair, right?
Yes.
But it was doing the same thing that Pokemon Go is doing. You go outside and you try to find Pokemon, using GPS and all that. Crazy, right? But again, it goes to the whole thing. It's like it only counts when Nintendo does it.
Yeah, and also Nintendo gets all the forgiveness in the world because this app is built like trash.
Yeah, let's talk
It
about
crashes all the time.
Yeah.
The servers are constantly not working. It has connectivity problems.
Oh, it's a hot dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Out behind an abortion clinic. I mean, it is just awful.
But it's only like companies like Nintendo that will get infinite forgiveness for a busted game.
Nintendo didn't even make it. I love
I
the
know
fact
they
that this
didn't make
forgiveness is transferable.
Yeah.
It's transferable to anybody that Nintendo has given the thumbs up. So even if you may have never played a game by this group before, and this may be your first experience, you're like, wow, this is the most awful, hot piece of trash I've ever found. Nintendo comes in, they're like, hey, this guy's cool. And you're like, oh, okay, well then, don't worry about it.
Yeah, you got a point there because no one's blaming Niantic for any problems. They're blaming Nintendo directly, It's funny, man. But yeah, it's just...
You're like, this game is crap, Nintendo.
Niantic was like, whew, shit, we dodged that bullet. Blame those guys, Now, I got to ask the obvious question because people are honestly thinking this is going to just keep going the way it's going, right? The momentum's not going to stop. I maintain winter comes, this shit is done. People can be like, I'm not going out. So what do you guys think? How long do you think this will last? Manny, go ahead since you're trying to speak.
Okay, so I definitely think it. I do agree that it might slow down during the winter, but not everybody has a winter like the East Coast or Canada does. So I'm still thinking that at least. I mean, this isn't only in North America right now, right?
It just came to England, to UK. It just got there. And by the way, the president of Brazil is pleading with Nintendo to bring it over there.
Bring it to Brazil.
Brazil. So Manny, okay, just ballpark it for me. How long do you think it'll sustain this level of enthusiasm before it trickles down? I'm not gonna die completely because I'm pretty sure people are gonna keep playing. But how long do you think this could sustain itself?
I feel like it could do it for a year.
That's a long time.
But the thing is, I think what'll happen is at some point people will get, because there's really there's no end game for that thing. I think that's at the point where people will just stop. Because it's like it just becomes like collecting for the sake of collecting,
Yeah, but what about when they start introducing actual matches and stuff, Chris? You think it'll like elongate the game? Like and stuff?
There's a couple of factors. If Niantic can't get on fixing the server issues and the app stability, then the drop-off rate is going to come real soon. It's not even going to be winter. It's going to be like in the next month or two. That game won't survive unless they seriously put some fixes in there. The second thing is, like, even if you put battles and trades in, like, it's not Pokemon is not a game series that lends itself to longevity. The grind, and then especially adding in the factor of people have to go far out of their way to go to stops and centers and gyms, meet up with other people, and all this stuff. Eventually, that's going to wear thin, and people are going to drop off of it. For the next game that piques their interest. So mobile, nothing lasts very long except with fair weather gamers who would just want to play Candy Crush, and that's something they can do on the subway.
Yeah, exactly.
So that next thing will come along, and so this game on mobile, I don't see it having a lot of longevity. It's either going to drop off because it's still broken a month out, or it's going to drop off like as soon as the seasons change. It's just inconvenient for people to go out and do all the things that the game requires you to do.
Yeah, that's fair. So, okay, just ballpark it for me. How many months do you think? Like, let's just say the servers keep working. How long do you think it'll last?
I give it till January, and then it's just done.
All right, Brett, how long do you think this will last?
I mean, there's a lot of questions about that. Like, my first question is, do you think it won't last because of the season change or because of the time that has passed?
I think it won't last because it's a mobile game and people are going to move on. Because, like Carlos said, a lot of the people playing are casuals. Let's just be honest here. I mean, granted, mobile gaming is for casuals, but most of the people, they're casuals and they will move on. They've moved on from Flappy Bird and even Mitomo. So that's where I'm coming at it from. It's just like it can't. It's like a burning flame. It's like that candle's gonna wear out pretty fast if you keep burning that hot. You got to slow that flame down a little bit. So that's where I'm coming at it from.
Tell that to the main Pokemon franchise.
The main Pokemon franchise. Okay, when a new game drops, right, it's obviously pretty high, but then you have that period of time where no one's really talking about Pokemon anymore. Then when a new game comes, you obviously get.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay. Are you saying that is this game okay? It seems like if you're asking if this game is going to artificially stay at the top of the hype list and unlike every other game in history not experience ups and downs
yeah, that's what I'm asking.
No, that will never. It will not be. It will not be the only game in history to have continual support, like continuously. It'll probably take on a Warcraft-esque lifestyle or life cycle where.
Please forgive me for coasting that answer out of you, but I needed you to say that because a lot of people were legit telling me this is it. This is the game now. And I'm glad you bring up Warcraft because I think that's what's going to happen here. It's going to settle to a point where it's going to be still popular, but it's not in your face all the time, just like Warcraft. Warcraft is always fucking there. It hasn't gone anywhere, but, it's not in your face like it used to be when it first came out,
But that's only if they fix it. Here's what's happening right now, in my opinion, at Nintendo. Somebody at Nintendo is basically saying, holy fuck, there is so much money to be made here. Like, I don't even care about my morals or my ethics or what Pokemon is or is not supposed to do. In the face of like $20 billion, everything goes out the fucking window.
Yes.
This has enough cash potential to equal the Wii, which is like the fucking biggest sensation that they have ever made. Like, this is more money to make. This is the chance to make them more money than Nintendo has possibly almost ever seen. So there have to be people at Nintendo, even at a company like Nintendo, in the boardrooms right now saying, we need to do something about this. This is too fucking successful to let go. And they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to expand the mobile game, or they're going to finally break down and start plans for a Pokemon MMO. Because that is essentially what they have shown here, is that there is a market and there is a lot of money for this. Not only is there a lot of money, but Nintendo's probably thinking, like, there's a lot of room for microtransactions here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, dude, what do you think it's making so much money? Because people are buying Pokeballs and stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, I'll counter that, and, like, Brett, you're right about part of that, in that there are guys in a boardroom thinking that, wow, this is amazing and we need to do more of that. Those guys are in Nintendo of America. And Nintendo of Japan, they are thinking we cannot hurt our brand, and our brand is the 3DS game. They will do as little as possible with this game because A, it wasn't made in Japan, and B, the game that was made in Japan is the one that's going to come out in the 3DS.
And I believe that, and that's why I'm not saying that it's necessarily going to be that this MOBA game is the future, but I virtually guarantee somebody at Nintendo, even if they're saying like, okay, we need to secure this on our handheld device, but we need to work on setting up servers and making this a multiplayer experience. So you may see in 3 to 4 years a Pokemon that comes out on Nintendo's proprietary handheld, but still links up via Wi-Fi to servers. It may have an offline mode and an online mode, where like you can run around and play offline mode, and then when you get to a Wi-Fi, plug in, hook up to the internet and battle your friends or battle strangers or trade Pokemon or all this kind of thing. Oh, by the way, we have customizable skins that you can buy, so your Mewtwo can look different from this guy's Mewtwo, and you can have a fucking, Pikachu with like a red thunderbolt on his forehead for just $2.99. Like, there's so much earning material. I don't think that they're just going to say, let this go on MOBA, which I think everybody wants to say. They're thinking that Nintendo's just going to like cash in on this and expand on this. I don't necessarily believe that. I believe that they're going to look at this and say there is a huge amount or a huge opportunity for money here if we go multi-plat and if we go multiplayer. So we're going to do one of those things and keep it firmly in our wheelhouse so that we can control every aspect about it. So I think they'll exploit one of the things that they've seen, but they won't be taking it multi-plat. And even though this proves that Nintendo ought to be going multi-plat, I don't think that that's what they're going to do. What instead they're going to do is see that they have a very successful IP and jealously guard it. But they also have to be looking at the numbers of the Pokemon games right now and realize there is something that they are not doing with their Pokemon games that this game has done. And the only difference is multiplayer connectivity. And so it's not even like, are they going to notice? Because it would take an idiot not to realize that letting these people play Pokemon with each other has led to a massive success and a shit ton of money. So I don't think that they're going to let it out on MOBA because I feel like that would damage their brand. And I feel like they're going to be guarding that. But will they now expand it and possibly give us the game that we've always wanted and is fucking 10 years too late already? Yeah, absolutely, because that's Nintendo's MO. They figure out something 10 years after the fact, and everyone's like, yeah, we fucking told you, and they make a shitload of money on it because they're Nintendo, and they don't have to worry about being forward-thinking anymore because they've got money for days. They're going to refill their Nintendo vault and then just sit back and fucking Scrooge McDuck for another 12 fucking years not listening to anybody. But at least we're going to get a multiplayer Pokemon game out of the deal.
Right, Carlos, how long do you think it's going to last, man?
I think it's going to last maybe close to a year. I agree with Brett and Chris about certain stuff. I think Pokemon Go is a good first step to what they should do. If Nintendo's not planning to have a strategy of having an end game of involving the actual Pokemon game for the 3DS on this platform, then they're just fucking up. Because what I think they're going to do is they're going to try to milk this shit as much as they can for years, maybe just small updates here and there. And I think that's going to turn out to be like to fuck everything up, to be honest.
Yeah, but again, how do you keep it going? I guess just...
Well, hold on, before we move on. So, Carlos, are you saying that they will give you this kind of piecemeal crap version of Pokemon that leaves you unsatisfied, only wanting more, as a sort of marketing ploy to get you to go out and buy their handheld for the actual true experience?
I'm saying that's what they normally do.
Yes, man. And that's the perfect fucking segue to the next question I want to ask, and this is how we're going to end off here. How is this, the success of Pokemon Go, going to affect the NX? Because I'm thinking they're going to be like... Because remember, the NX is not finalized yet, specifically the controller. So do you think they're going to try to make more games like this for the NX? Chris, I'm throwing this right at you, man.
Well, if I'm right and the NX is some sort of hybrid dockable tablet thing, then yes. Then this is exactly the kind of gameplay that they're going to bring to that system. I don't think the NX is a standard console. I don't think it's just going to be like us with an Xbox controller or DualShock 4. It's going to be some weird fucking tablet thing. They're not done with their cockamamie controls and whatnot. And I think the reason that they're able to make this transition, these mobile deals, is because that's exactly what they're going to give us with the NX. They're going to give us a mobile tablet experience. And these games are going to translate both ways.
I'm not honestly upset about that. Like, I would be okay with a hybrid mobile system. And, like, actually seeing Pokemon Go, like, if they made it so that I could go out and connect with other people, like, that might be the, like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but, like, Nintendo has a thread that if they pulled just the right way, they could possibly get me interested in Nintendo again in the future. Because there's no way in fuck I'm going to buy a Game Boy being a 32-year-old adult with a fucking job. I'm only out of the house maybe 10% of the time where I could pick up a game, and even then I'm ignoring friends or ignoring responsibilities. So having a tablet game, or essentially a console that I could just fucking take everywhere with me, over to Tony's house, on vacation with me, up to the
Yay.
hospital, play it in the car if I want, like, that actually might exploit a niche that I could be interested in. And if this is what the future of Nintendo has in store, like, I'm not entirely opposed to it off the bat. Doesn't mean I'm sold, but it's you could have something that differentiates you enough from the core systems that Nintendo could, again, this, and actually that would be a perfect example of Blue Ocean, I think.
Carlos, what do you think, man? NX, how's it going to be affected by this?
I guess it all depends on what the NX actually is. Is it going to try to cut into that market? If it really is going to do that whole mobile tablet thing, then would they even put their new releases on Android and iOS and just keep it exclusive like they normally do their things? It just all depends on what their...
That's a good question, actually, yeah. Because the thing is, okay, if Nintendo could make an experience like Pokemon Go really exclusive, they're going to fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, they may just hoard these experiences. But the thing is, they already have the deals with DNA and stuff, so you're still going to see more mobile games. But I think you're right. I think they may try to hoard that shit for themselves now.
Yeah, and that's why I think the whole Pokemon Go experience right now, they're going to try to milk that as much as they can, because they're gonna sell that the way it is right now, and when the NX comes, they would probably do an exclusive, more Pokemon game on that platform.
Yeah. Manny.
Yo.
Thoughts? You think that how do you think the NX is going to be affected by this?
Why do I think NX is going to be affected by this? Well, I mean, I think the portion of it, the part that it's so readily available would probably affect it, because you don't need to buy a whole new console in order to play this sort of game. As of now, I mean, if you think about it, it might also help them fund the stupid NX.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Actually, you touched on something I do want to bring up on, because I was reading. We're going to touch on NPDs later, right? But the NPD said that they believe that Pokemon Go is going to affect the sales of video games in the next couple months. So do you think this may affect the sale of NX? People will be like, hey, I don't need NX. I got my mobile, I got my my tablet or whatever, so I can play Pokemon. I don't need an NX for that. You think that may affect the NX too? Manny, I'm looking at you. I don't think Manny's gone now. Chris, get in here.
Yeah, well, I think there's going to be a demand for more of this stuff on mobile. I think now people have a taste of this. They're going to be like, yo, give me more of that on my phone. Right? I already have a phone. You already have a powerful piece of hardware. You do. Everyone does. So
Yeah.
They're going to be like, why do I got to buy a console for this? Like, I got it right here, man. Just give it to me right here. This is what everybody's been fucking saying to Nintendo. Just go third party, man. You just did it. You stuck your toe in. Just dive in the fucking pool. The water's not that cold.
Yeah, exactly. And Nintendo, look how much money you're making right now.
Oh, yeah.
How much did their stock go up? How much did their stock go up? It was like, it went up a crazy amount. They made like millions of dollars and stuff. It's
Billions,
crazy.
yeah.
Nintendo, man, they're right there. Come on.
Think about it. Pokemon Go is not even that good of a game.
It isn't. It's trash.
No, it's broken.
It's broken, and the mechanics, it doesn't make sense. It's just capturing Pokemon, and people are going nuts over this. Just
So think about how if this was an actual polished game, man, it'd be crazy.
You get people going nuts. You could look at how crazy people were for Pokemon Snap back in the day.
Yeah.
That on rails game, it wasn't even a Pokemon game. Just take pictures of it. Imagine them putting that on the phone. You walk around in AR and you take pictures of Pokemon. Maybe you get points or something. People would jump all over that. They could milk this all day.
Yeah.
So then the question I pose to them is, then what do you need the NX for? What do you need this for? Why even bother with the 3DS anymore? Like, that's the question everybody's got to ask. You know, people will be like, oh, no, Chris, you're not being fair to them. No, 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 I'm being plenty fair. You stuck your toe in the water. You made tons of fucking money, maybe more money than you've ever seen from one fucking game, right? Right now on mobile. So why would you bother?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
good
we're getting to this point where the hardware we're getting on our phones is way superior to the hardware that we're getting on these mobile gaming platforms. And I mean, back in the day, that's all we had. There was the only way we can game on the go is using these Game Boys and Vitas and stuff. So what's the real use? Just the controls?
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
You know, and I'm pretty sure most of the casual market won't even care about the NX when they can just play Pokemon on their fucking phone. Let's just be honest.
Right.
You know? It's crazy. All right, so let's move on here. Very interesting phenomenon that Pokemon Go is. All right, let's get into some news here. Woo, get ready for some fire, boys. Okay, so it was discovered by the FTC, by the way, Federal Trade Commission. Warner Brothers was paying YouTubers off for positive coverage of Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of Mordor, the 2014 Throwdown Game of the Year, by the way. You know, we hardly agree on shit. 4 out of 5 of us said this was the Game of the Year. We all loved it. Coalition gave it the Game of the Year. This was not a game that needed a boost. It didn't need it. But Warner Brothers, they paid off guys like PewDiePie and a bunch of other dudes to give it positive coverage, right? And yeah, you know, this goes back to the whole thing, you know, that we've been talking about before. Because a lot of people believe that YouTubers are the last bastion for pure quote-unquote game journalism, and they just showed you they're almost as corrupt as the main guys. The thing is, they may be worse because the main guys are still held accountable. They're supposed to be upheld to a certain like moral standard. YouTubers are not, you know, so it gets kind of fishy. But at the same time,
hey man, if somebody shows up with a shitload of money for some game.
That's the thing, though. If you're a YouTuber, right, and you make a living off of this, someone's gonna offer you money. Can you really be like? You can't fault them for that. They're gonna take the money, you know. I understand that. But it goes to prove that these YouTube guys, they're not above it. But to
can
be fair,
you hear me?
I hear you just fine, man.
Okay. I want to jump in right there and interrupt you. Like, yeah, you can turn down the money. It's called having fucking ethics and not being a lying slimy douchebag.
No, Brett, I agree. You can turn it down, but these YouTube guys, they're not gonna do that.
Well, yeah, but I've had this conversation with a few people. I want to be very clear that you do not normalize this kind of behavior. Like, I know that you can't really expect a lot out of people, and like that's us being a cynic though. Like, we all do need to fucking sit up and be like, we cannot accept the whole, well, what do you expect? Or, well, the world's kind of a shitty place. Like, no, I'm putting my foot down here and saying I fucking expect more. I not only do I fucking expect more, but I fucking deserve more. Like, for Christ's sake, the fact that everybody's just rolling over and taking this shit because, like, oh, well, people like money. No, we should be breaking out the fucking pitchforks. Not only is PewDiePie an idiot, but he's a lying idiot.
Oh, okay. I'm going to stop right there because, to be fair to PewDiePie, because everybody was harping on this guy. And remember, I'm saying this, I'm not a fan of PewDiePie. I don't like what he does. But just to be fair to this guy, in his description, he did say this was sponsored by Warner Brothers. A lot of people said that he did it lying. No, he didn't lie.
Okay, no. In his description, which is the bare minimum required to not be basically accused of trying to hide this shit, it's storing it away in a fucking drop-down menu in a celebrity and channel that is known for targeting children who don't know any better than to fucking read this kind of shit. It may be legal, but it is morally bankrupt.
I agree with everything you say, but let's just be clear here. Warner Brothers were the ones that told him, don't put this shit up front, bury it. They told him that.
No, I know that. I know that. And that right there, like, and this is probably a good time to point out, if you work for a shitty company and you go in every day and you take their shitty company money, you are part of that shitty company. There is no dissemination of responsibility. There is no, oh, I'm just a cog in a machine. You're a shitty cog in a shitty machine that makes a shitty machine that makes people's lives worse. If you are part of the problem, you are part of the problem. And I am so fucking sick of people saying, like, oh, well, you know what, I'm just trying to make it by. I'm just trying to, Like, oh yeah, I know I work for Walmart, but I'm just trying to do my thing. Like, motherfucker, I am a small businessman. I go out of my way to make sure that my customers are treated correctly. The beginning, middle, and end of my fucking life has people being treated correctly and above the board. I live my life in a moral way, and I expect other people to treat me the same fucking way. And this is morally bankrupt. It is doing the bare minimum. It is saying, like, yeah, I'm following the letter of the law, but you know what? We all know that asshole who follows the letter of the law. It doesn't make him a good fucking person. So yeah, I know everybody's giving PewDiePie shit, and everybody wants to kind of come out and say, like, well, it was in his description. Fuck you! I don't care if it was in his description. You're playing to fucking 12-year-olds on the internet. They don't know any better. Even if you say this video was sponsored, they wouldn't probably know what the fuck that meant in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, no, again, Brent, I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying, but I still laid most of this blame, actually, because who really did this? Fucking Warner Brothers, not trusting their fucking game. That's,
I don't. Okay, that's another like bullshit thing. Like, yeah, Warner Brothers was bad, but they're not the ones that actually did the bad thing. Okay, they asked somebody else to do something bad. If I came and I asked you to rob a liquor store, and you fucking robbed the liquor store, you still did it.
But sponsored content isn't bad, though. We have sponsored content on the coalition.
And we recognize it. Yeah, but this is not sponsored content. This is an attempt to hide sponsored content. This is an attempt.
But it was Warner Brothers that told them not to, say it up front. They're the ones that told them.
Right. But that's part of any contract. Like EA has done it. Like they're not Warner Bros. Is not the only ones that have done this, right? Approached what they call game influencers, these guys on YouTube, and put out a contract, offer them a lot of money, and say like, you legally they have to say it was sponsored, but bury that somewhere so that's not front and center. They all do that, right? But the thing is, you can, like Brett is saying, and I agree with him that it's like PewDiePie makes like he's the top YouTuber right now. He's the top fucking YouTuber, period. There's no debating it in the world.
Chris, let me just stop right now, just so people know. There were 5 million people that clicked on these positive videos, right, from Shadow of Mordor, and 3 million of those views came from PewDiePie. Just had to throw that out there. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, he's already making, being a YouTube partner, he's already making tons of ad revenue and whatever. It's like at one point where you're like, well, I just want more money, and then take Warner Brothers contract to do this. He didn't have to do it. It was not like he's like, gee, the YouTube money's not really coming in. No, you're the top fucking YouTuber in the world. You don't have to take any more money. You're already getting tons of AdSense money, and you decided, nah, you know what? I don't give a shit. Like, whoever wants to pay me, just keep it coming.
Also, how hard would it be? Like, and like this is coming from, like, if I'm a YouTuber, I would jump on my YouTube channel and be like, hey guys, big fucking news. Warner Brothers actually got in contact with me and wanted me to check out their game, so I'm here to show it to you. They actually sent me a thing.
Warner Brothers told them not to do that. Understand?
Then don't do it. That's my point. If somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want you to do this thing, which isn't technically illegal, but is very shady and immoral, you can't say, well, I'm not responsible for that because somebody asked me to do it. No, you are absolutely responsible for it. You did the thing. I don't give a fuck who asked you to do the thing, who told you to do the thing, what reason they had to tell you to do the thing, what leverage they had on you to make you do the thing. You did the thing. You still did the thing.
But
and no,
the thing is sponsored content, which isn't illegal.
It's not, but lying to people isn't illegal. Does that make it right?
But did he lie? He didn't. It was still there.
Do you know what curating a conversation is, Tony?
I don't know what the hell. Okay, what's curating conversation?
Curating a conversation is leading people to believe something even though it's not specifically said. It is changing the things that have been said and haven't been said to lead people to a specific conclusion, but never actually stating that conclusion. This is poetry of lying to people, but it's still fucking lying to people. And it was devised by Warner Brothers. They gave him a roadmap of how to subvert intent. When you watch the video, you are not aware that it is sponsored content unless you dig and look for that. And that is very specifically by design. And that is by design.
It's fucked up, but at the same time, sponsored content is not illegal. That's the main point I'm trying to
No, it's not illegal, but it's fucked up, and that's my thing.
It is fucked up. No one's disagreeing on that point.
Oh, okay, so why are you sitting there saying that it's okay because it's not illegal?
I'm not saying it's okay. I say I'm okay. There's a
why are you defending it then?
I'm not defending it. There's a difference between saying it's okay and saying you understand it. There's a difference.
No, because
I never said it's illegal. I just said it's fucked up. But you're
It
sitting
is
here
fucked up.
You're sitting here being an apologist.
I'm not apologizing. I'm trying to tell you what's going on here because you're trying to make it seem like these guys are like completely fucked up. It's fucked up.
No. I'm stating that they haven't done anything illegal, but they are morally bankrupt, and they know exactly what they're trying to do. And not only do they know exactly what they're trying to do, it's born of intent. It was designed that way.
Yeah, and and it goes back to Warner Brothers not trusting their fucking product. You know, that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm not saying
I don't even care about that. I care about people lying to me. And see, that's the thing. I may be getting people may look at me and say I'm getting up in arms. I'm taking this too seriously. But you know what? I am done with people fucking curating the conversation around me. I am done with people doing everything but lying to me. And I personally, and then that's my point. We all need to fucking band together and say that shit's not cool. And when Warner Brothers says, "Well, it wasn't illegal. It was buried in a drop-down menu," that's when you as a fan say, "I don't fucking care. You knew what you were doing. You were trying to hide something from." It's like your girlfriend coming to you and being like, and trying to hide something from you and saying like, "Well, you didn't specifically ask about this thing, bitch. You knew what I wanted to know. You knew the information that I wanted to know, and you presented the information in such a way as to lead me to a different conclusion." That may be lying by omission or lying by another name, but it's still fucking lying. And it may not be illegal, but it's still fucking wrong. Yeah, and I personally don't think we need to fucking stop supporting the people who do this shit. And instead, and it's not you, but everybody wants to be a PewDiePie fucking apologist on this sense. Like, oh, well, he put it on his menu. I don't give a shit if he put it on his menu. He still did an amoral douchebag thing to a bunch of children on the internet, and just because he didn't break any fucking laws, which, by the way, aren't designed to protect any of us fucking anyway, just because he didn't break any laws, he still broke the spirit of the reason the fucking laws were made. You cannot lie to people. You cannot deceive. I don't even use lie. You cannot intentionally deceive a mass swath of people like that. That's why they went so far as to try. What?
I mean, that's the part I'm like, did he really deceive when it's there? That's the point I'm like a little sticky.
No, what you're saying, you're laying the responsibility at Warner Brothers' feet because Warner Brother paid him to do this. Warner Brother set up the roadmap. Warner Brother basically said, just press this button for money. And I'm saying, I don't care if they were holding his fucking hand. He still pressed that fucking button. If somebody came to you and said, press this button, and somebody around the world dies, and I give you $1 million, you don't know who, you don't know how, you will never hear about it again. Would you press that button? No, it is still wrong to press that button.
By the way, to answer the question, hell fucking yeah, I do that shit. Get $1 million out of. And again, but this is part of the moral conversation because my thing is like, okay, that person wouldn't have been killed if the original people didn't come to you with that money in the first place. So who's ultimately responsible? The person who started the whole thing.
Both parties. You cannot be party to evil without being evil yourself. Tony, your idea, the thing that you are proposing, is the exact reason that Nazi Germany was a fucking thing. And I hate to throw that out there, but it's the apologists. It's the people who go along with it. That's the fucking problem.
But going back to Nazi Germany, could you really blame them for... If you have a bunch of Nazis,
that is the reason it is law in Germany right now. You do not follow a direct order if you do not believe the order is given in good faith. You do not do war crimes. You can disobey a direct order, directly disobey the chain of command in Germany, specifically so that this shit doesn't happen again. Like
I mean, that's what it's a whole conversation. But it's like, doesn't that undermine the whole reason you have? Actual
No, because the problem is you can develop this imaginary fucking straw man.
What's the point of having a chain of order, a chain of command if you're not going to listen to it? I've never been one of those guys like, oh yeah, no, you have to blame the soldier. I'm not blaming the soldier. I'm blaming the commander.
It's both though. See, that's the thing.
I don't see it that way.
Okay, if you just blame the commander, then what? The entire Holocaust was perpetrated by 4 fucking guys. And then a bunch of other people that were just along for the ride and didn't want to get...
What are we going to say? No, come on, man. There were soldiers that had to take orders, dude. Come on, man. That's just the way it is.
No, it's not the way that it is. If you partake in evil, you are party to evil. That's what that means. You can't just say because somebody told you to do something that it's not your fault.
I mean, that's a whole different conversation. But if it's your commander, even if it's fucked up, you got to do it. Otherwise, what's the point of being a soldier?
There's a different analysis because PewDiePie isn't a soldier.
Yeah, he's not,
out of his free will. And actually, what Warner Brothers did is illegal because the Federal Trade Commission has very strict rules about deceiving customers. So what they did was illegal by telling him to hide it in a note because if you watch his video on other forums like Twitter and Facebook, you can't see the comments. I mean the description. so you don't know that it's sponsored content, right?
Yeah, you have to click on it or something to.
You have to go to
And
YouTube
because
and then
Warner
expand
Brothers
it.
told them
Yeah.
don't put it in front of
Right.
people's faces.
So that was blatantly violating advertising laws put in place by the Federal Trade Commission. That's why they're in trouble. PewDiePie is an asshole for taking the money in the first place. What
didn't
he
need
did
money,
wasn't wrong because they told him to do it. Warner Brothers is wrong for telling him because it was illegal for them to do that as a company. But PewDiePie took money and misled people with this in a way that was, he was asked to do it and he did it, but he didn't need to do that. There's nothing you could tell me like, oh, well, he needed the money. No, he didn't.
Yeah, by the way, a quick thing, I want to give a shout out here to Dad versus the. He says, and Brett, this for you, he goes, Brett, those people don't have any morals. He's expecting too much from douchebags. So what do you think about that? I guess the nature of YouTubers, that they really don't have any, they don't have any obligation to be moral,
No, they don't, but they have obligation to their customers, and we need to hold these people to a certain accountability. That's my point. No, PewDiePie is not going to give a fuck about you or me, and quite honestly, I don't watch PewDiePie, so I can't stop viewing his fucking channel. But if I did, I would stop viewing his fucking channel. You don't do that kind of, like, if I found out that Total Biscuit was pulling that shit with his fans, I'd be super pissed. Sorry, I'd stop listening. I'd stop checking out Total Biscuit. Like that's how it is. You do not deceive me as a fan and continue to keep me as a fan. It's the reason I don't fucking follow Kevin Smith anymore. It's the reason I don't mostly follow Dan Harmon anymore. Like, my currency is my time and my money. That is the only thing I have as a consumer. And so the only thing I can do when people treat me badly is take my time and my money elsewhere. And I think the problem is that a lot of people want to be apologists. A lot of people want to say, like, oh, well, he just took the money. It's not his thing. I still want to keep watching his videos. And nothing fucking gets done. And at the end of the day, tomorrow, Warner Brothers sells their game more. PewDiePie makes more fucking money. You got dicked over and you don't care. And we're all in a worse fucking position. And this shit has been going on since Horse Armor DLC and fucking Oblivion. And I've been here screaming from the rooftops. And you know what? The slow erosion is a real fucking thing. Gaming is worse off today because of how irresponsible we have responded in the last 10 to 15 years. That's incredibly frustrating as somebody who's been beating the fucking drums to try and get people together. But it's not really reasonable or realistic to expect a bunch of people to get together to stand up for their hobby. Oh, wait, yeah, there's Gamergate. Yeah, it is. So, yeah, okay.
All right, Carlos, jump in here, man. What are your thoughts on all this?
I just find it funny that Warner Brothers paid off people to talk good about a really, really, really good game. It's like they couldn't just save money and paid off the reviewers for Batman v Superman or something.
Yeah, that means back to the wrong horse.
That would have been money better spent.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you didn't need it for this game. Everybody liked this game. It didn't need it. It's just ridiculous,
Yeah, and I mean, these reviewers, like, I don't watch PewDiePie, but does he do like sort of the quote-unquote formal review?
No, he doesn't. This is like this video is out of the norm for him. Usually, he just does these videos where he's screaming at gameplay.
Exactly, because he can be playing a game where he's kicking a freaking goat, and he's just screaming, and it looks like he's having a good time. Exactly, and it's like, what's real and what's fake, anyways? I can't really tell. I don't really go to PewDiePie to look at my critical gaming analysis.
Yeah, well, you're not a 12-year-old boy, That's probably
Right.
the audience, Manny, get in here. What are your thoughts on all this?
About the
whole WB thing. We had a conversation about this earlier this week too. WB paying off YouTubers and stuff.
I mean, it's in general, it's bound to happen because, again, it's about controlling the narrative. It's always about controlling the narrative. And those who have money often control the narrative. So, paying off these guys to give a favorable review because they know that lots of people watch it, definitely.
Yeah, and then like you said, the YouTuber guys, they're gonna just again, it's fucked up. But if you're just some maybe a mid-range guy, you're gonna take that money. PewDiePie, he didn't need that fucking money. Like, why are you taking that money, dude? What the fuck? You didn't need that fucking money, But human nature. What can you do?
Capitalism.
Yeah. All right. Move on here. So this is a story that kind of made me pretty happy because we always bring up NPDs on this podcast, right? And we always somehow how they're kind of becoming more irrelevant all the time because they don't count digital sales. Well, guess what? You're gonna start counting digital sales now. Good on you. Now there's some stipulations for it. First, it's still only North American and only whoever is willing to participate, right? And a lot of publishers are not participating, like Sony and Microsoft. They're not participating in this.
Mm-hmm.
Activision is, and a couple others. But even if you don't have all of them yet, it's a good start. So I'm happy about that because it'll at least give you a better picture. Because what does digital account for now? Like almost 20%. It's getting up there. You can't just dismiss it now. Now hopefully they'll start counting bundles and shit too. Because they don't count any of that stuff either. But Chris, what do you think about NPD finally adding digital sales, man?
That's about time. I mean, you need an accurate picture of all the sales, and digital accounts for a lot, and it's going to count for a lot more as we're coming up at the end of this generation, which I think is just going to be the end of consoles as we know it in general, and things are going to shift more to that. I mean, we always talk about what's the point of buying a disc anymore when you install the whole game to the damn drive anyway. Like nothing runs off discs anymore on the current consoles. So then I might as well just buy everything digital. I started doing that with some games. I'm like, fuck it, it's on PlayStation Plus or it's Xbox Gold or whatever. I'm like, yeah, screw it. I'll just get it digitally. But then that doesn't count to NPD, so you don't get a whole picture. And to get an accurate representation of sales, you have to count it, right? If it's 20%, that's a significant amount of sales, right?
And
that's on track.
Don't these companies require for those digital sales to be shown to their shareholders?
Well, they know their stats, right? Like Sony knows everything that goes to the store. Same with Steam. Same with Xbox. They know. It's just that the NPD guys don't know because they don't disclose it to them, right? So need that disclosure, like, hey, Sony, how many copies of A, B, C, and D went through your store? And they get those stats, right? But shareholders, they have all that information presented to them by whatever company they're investing in.
Yeah, it's not like this information is hard to come by. It's all out there, But Carlos, what do you think, man?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's about time. The next generation, I'm pretty sure, will be all digital, if not pretty much all digital. And I mean, if the generation doesn't, next generation, like after Scorpio Neo.
Yeah, will there be another next generation?
Yeah. But I guess if we see Steam sales, then I guess that's really good.
Yeah, I don't know if Steam is part of this, by the way. If they're being included, they should be because they're like the biggest ones out there, It'll be interesting to see how things shift because right now, like the PS4 and stuff is getting a lot of the sales, but what if you actually see that PC is getting most of the sales, right? Wouldn't that be crazy? It'll upset the whole chain out there,
Yeah, the crazy thing is that PC has so many platforms within the PC, like Origin, it has that EA, whatever that EA thing is, and Steam, and
it's
a whole bunch of other stuff.
You see if publishers, Ubisoft, Bethesda, and Sega, they're not, they're not part of this. Neither is Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, but Activision, Blizzard, Bandai Namco, Capcom, EA, and Square Enix, Take-Two Interactive, and Warner Brothers. Our brothers at Warner Brothers, they're all part of this.
Am I the only one who thinks that NPDs are kind of like a bullshit metric to begin with?
Why is that?
Because they don't actually track anything that matters to us gamers. The only metric that it really follows is something that's going to be important to a shareholder, somebody who's looking to invest in the company. I don't give a fuck how much money you've made or how many copies of the game that you sold. What I care about is the game's retention, how your player base is doing. To a certain extent, as much as I hate to say it, a little bit closer to how Microsoft is honestly doing it, because all telling me how much your game sold on the opening weekend, all that tells me is how good a marketing campaign you had. It tells me nothing about the game because nobody's had a chance to really play the game. Nobody's had a chance to recommend the game to their friends. It hasn't actually gotten the hands of anybody. All you're doing is measuring how successful their marketing campaign was and how many people pre-ordered the game or bought the game with little to no knowledge about it. Even the most educated person
can only know so much about a game before it gets put in your hands. Like, so, yeah, yay, this game sold 42 million fucking copies. That means absolutely dick to me. You know what does matter to me? How many people are still playing this game 2 weeks after release? How many people in that metric are recommending the game to a friend? How many hours have actually been put in this game? Like, anybody, I wish Brian were here, because one of the main metrics you check it when checking for Steam reviews and whatnot is how long somebody has played the game. If they played the game for 4 hours and give it a glowing review, fuck that guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. If they've played it for 400 hours and they're like, meh, it's okay, then you're like, I am totally playing this game. Like, so there's important information. And I would say the least of which is how many copies the game has sold, especially on its opening weekend.
Well, yeah, but I'd say I agree with you, and the NPDs are really not for us more than they're for people who go, hey, geez, Activision's doing pretty well. Maybe I'll throw some money at them and buy some shares. Like, that's more of who it's for. But I would hold that standard, like what you were saying about Steam. I would say Microsoft and Sony should definitely do that same thing, because there are games that are very questionable on both stores that get 4 stars or 5 stars perfect if they're certain types of games, and it's like, this game, it can't be good, you know. But the stars say otherwise, and you're like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, the stars say otherwise. There's no user reviews though.
Yeah, but and Steam has it, so you can kind of measure it, like, okay, you're bullshitting because you played the game for 2 hours, but you said it's perfect,
I don't know, man. I kind of disagree. I mean, I don't disagree on the whole, like, hey, what is the retention span, right? Whatever. But I like seeing, hey, how much did this game sold? How much did that game? I like seeing what people are buying and how long they've been buying it. Like, it's interesting to me to see people still buying Grand Theft Auto, people still buying Call of Duty. I like seeing that stuff.
Well, okay, yeah, but that says something completely different. By the time you get to, is Grand Theft Auto still selling this month, you're actually measuring the retention metrics. You're measuring how healthy the game is weeks and weeks and months down the line. So, like, NPDs can matter when you look at, like, the macro, like the big scale, but a lot of people just look at the very beginning, like, like what games are at the top of the NPDs this week. Especially, like, and I hate to say it, the way that we look at it is an interesting look, but it holds very little actual relevant information.
I mean, objectively speaking, you're right. Like, what a game sells doesn't matter to you personally as a gamer. That's true. But there are some of us, like me, that just find it all very interesting to see, hey, what games are selling the most this month?
We report on the macro, Tony. We report on how companies are doing. So to us, that is relevant information. To us, as the Throwdown, this is relevant information. To Brett the gamer, this isn't relevant information. To Tony the gamer, this isn't relevant information. I'm not saying that they should do away with the NPDs. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, hey, instead of expanding them, how about we kind of bring in some more of these ideas that help us more properly? Like, even, like, I would love to see a Steam user metric review for everybody who reviewed a game in the fucking review. So, like, if somebody reviewed God of War, they fucking have to, and they did it on Steam, they have to post
God of War on Steam. Man, imagine the fanboys, man.
That was a half-baked example that changed halfway through, but you get my point. If there's a game on Steam that somebody reviews, I'd like to see, like, hey, check this out. They played it for 12 hours and they completed 62% of the game, but they somehow think they can put out a full fucking review. That's interesting.
But at the end of the day, talking about the whole, is this relevant to the gamer? Are reviews really that relevant to the gamer? Because, I mean, we are going to experience things differently most of the time.
I think we're going to go back then to, like, what kind of review it is. Like, if it's an editorial, sure, you're looking at it for entertainment value. If it's supposed to be a metered metric review, I'd like to see as much of an attempt to be unbiased as possible, and I think that can be helped along by giving individual things scores, scoring the sound, the gameplay, the graphics, all individually, so that you don't get a person who's, who doesn't care much about gameplay but cares everything about graphics, reviewing a game and ending up, the game get a 99 out of 100 because it just had amazing graphics. Like, people put different values on different metrics, and so I think individually rating and reviewing those is the best way for an unbiased review. So it depends on what you get in. I think the big problem right now is overview is such a generic umbrella term at this point that There's no structure. There's no like even like if you took like look at wine reviewers, like they all follow a specific set of parameters to review wine. They all kind of look for the same notes. They look for the same thing. They standardize their reviews. We don't have any of that kind of thing in video games. It's just all this person says this thing, and this person puts out a funny satire video, and this person tries to take a review seriously, and this person's coming at it from an Xbox fanboy standpoint. This person's coming at it from a PlayStation fanboy standpoint. Like. There's no real attempt to try and be thorough and unbiased because there's no standardized regulation of formatting in our industry.
Wait, did you say wine reviews were standardized?
Not that they were standardized, that there's a standard metric that most people use. Like food critics try and measure against certain standards, and wine reviewers try and measure against certain standards. I'm not going to say that they're uniform, but like if you can't review a wine without talking about the body of it. You can't review a wine without talking about the scent of it. You can't.
Yeah, well, I think most of the guys are full of shit, but.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I'm just saying that in our industry, it varies so wildly, and I'm not saying that that's a good or a bad thing. There's a lack of standardization in the review process, and so one person's quote review could be miles aside from somebody else's quote review. And yeah, like sometimes that matters. Like what I care what Total Biscuit says about a game. I care what Yahtzee thinks about a game. Like if Yahtzee gives a game a good review, even if I hadn't been looking at that game, I'd be like, oh really? Like he doesn't like many games at all. I'd be interested to see that.
Well, Brett, so I kind of think the opposite of you. I don't really put that much weight into any reviewers' reviews of a game. I would actually put more relevance to seeing the sales of a game, in my opinion, because I would see, for example, if a new franchise starts or a new game IP starts and you want to know how good it does because you like the game and you want to see a sequel to it. Well, you get to see why or why not this game is going to get a sequel made. Or I think just knowing that to me is more relevant than actually reading a review of a game, if that makes sense.
Because if you want the reviews, but the thing is, if you want review scores, can't you just go to Metacritic for that? That's a different.
My only point is
NPD.
Look at it this way: if you view it simply by NPDs, then Watch Dogs was an amazing game.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, But the thing is, I don't think you should treat NPDs as like, hey, the quality of it, right? It's more about, hey, what's selling this month. But again,
that brings me on to my first point. What does it matter what's selling this month to the gamer on an individual basis?
It doesn't matter at all. But to analysts like us, it does matter. Guys who actually just want to see where the industry's going, that it matters to us in that sense. But the gamer, you don't give a fuck about that.
Oh, yeah, but as a gamer, I'd love to see a retention metric. I'd love to see this many people are still playing this game this week.
But does that really matter to you? It
does. Yeah, it does. For instance, Dark Souls. Like Dark Souls has an unrealistic player retention. That game is still fucking hopping. I can still jump on at 3 in the morning and anywhere in the game get summoned within like 45 seconds. It's fucking stupid how many people are still playing this game. And if I had to jump...
But that has nothing to do with sales.
No, it doesn't. And that's why I'm saying I'd like to see 2 independent metrics. Like, I'd like to see one for game sales, because sure, that matters, and I guess that shows how many people bought the game and how well their advertising campaign is, but I'd also like to see a metric of how many people are still playing. I as a gamer, think that would be more telling. And it's great that they're expanding NPDs, but, like... as a gamer, it doesn't fucking matter to me that much. It just seems like an outdated, useless metric as far as gamers are concerned.
Yeah, and I like that metric about seeing how many people are still playing the game, especially for multiplayer games. Because
I was about to say that because it really if you're a single player guy, you don't
doesn't Microsoft do that already?
Yeah, well, that's what Microsoft did, and we made fun of them for that. I haven't. I don't care how many people playing
Microsoft
game.
does vague, obscured facts that give you no idea what the actual game retention is. By saying like Warthogs have driven 10,000 miles. Like how many people are driving these Warthogs?
Yeah, Brett. Hold on, Brett. So you're trying to tell me that finding out how many bullets were fired in Halo doesn't matter to you? Is that what you're telling me?
No. But all they're doing is trying to fucking camouflage it. They're like, this many bullets were fired, and you're sitting there at home being like, okay, so like let's say an average person shoots 100 bullets. Like you start making up these arbitrary random equations just to try and deduce how many people are actually playing, because they know that's what you want. And they do that. They tell you these unnecessary metrics to make it sound like there's a lot of people playing without saying an actual number. But that's one of the things I do really like about Steam. I can log in at any point and see how popular a game still is. I can see how popular it was, how many people are playing, how long they've been playing, how long before the drop-off. I can see if a game has been popular, like everybody's picked up this game, played it for about 2 weeks, put it down, never touched it again. Okay, that tells me a lot about the quality of the game.
Yeah. By the way, I had to clarify somebody in the chat. Somebody said Gears of War 4 developer was bought by a Chinese chicken supplier. No, not the Coalition. They weren't bought by them. It was the guys who make the multiplayer. Okay, just get that straight, people. And by the way, that's not made up. They were bought by a chicken supplier. Crazy shit.
Damn.
Anyway, let's move on here. I don't know why I didn't throw that in the show notes, but we got enough good shit here. All right, so this is a follow-up to what we talked about last week, I believe. Valve cracks down on gambling sites that use Steam. If you saw our last episode, we talked about how these two guys, they have this site called CSGO Lotto, right? And they plugged it on their YouTube channel without telling people, hey, we are the owners of this shit. So now Valve, because lawsuits are coming, like, hey, we got nothing to do with these. As a matter of fact, we're going to tell all these third-party sites, don't use Steam or we're going to fucking crack down on you. So, yeah, I guess Valve, they had no choice but to do this. Very crazy story, man. The whole the gambling shit is crazy because we literally have little kids gambling on this shit, on Counter-Strike Go, craziness. So good on Steam, I guess, but I guess they had no choice. Why didn't you crack down years ago? Why didn't you do that then?
Yeah.
Well, companies are always reactive instead of proactive. So there's always some guy who comes along and it's like, hey, I know how we can exploit this shit. They basically put gambling into CS:GO, all right? But where they cross the line, where these guys didn't think, is like how many kids were playing on there, and that's how they got in trouble, right? And plus the misrepresentation that they actually owned the site, the gambling site, when they were saying in their videos, "Oh, I found this site, and it's so
Isn't
great."
it awesome? Yeah.
So yeah, they were full of shit. But it's always someone who comes along and just scams the system, and then companies go, "Oh shit, we didn't realize they could do that," and then they start closing it up. We got to cover our ass. We don't want to get sued, and they crack
But
down
Chris,
on all of it.
They never specifically said they didn't own the site, and they could say that they technically found it, even though they owned it, because it is findable. They didn't. They didn't technically break the letter of the law.
Yeah, well, the FTC
Sure.
didn't see it that
Well,
way.
yeah, no, they did break the law. They did. Yeah,
FTC
gambling with
didn't see it
minors.
that
Yeah.
way. They're like, oh,
No,
you guys-
I know. I was just being an asshole.
I know.
Bring it back.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're completely morally bankrupt, but yeah, that's where they got them, right? Besides the misrepresentation, kids are gambling.
Yeah, because remember they have access to the back end, so they could make themselves win. Oh, I just won $13,000. This site is crazy. You should try it too.
Technically, they got around it by they gamble for skins, and these skins can then be sold for real-world currency, but they are not gambling with real-world currency. So technically, it is not minors gambling.
Yeah, in that sense, And then there's the whole fact that people were gambling in states that don't allow gambling, so kind of crazy shit going on, So good on you, Valve, even though you were very, very late on this.
Yeah, to a certain extent, though, like, that's just abuse. Like, I think that's kind of bullshit. Like, I'm not sure if anybody ever, like, oh, God. I played Pogs when I was little, played with Pogs. You guys remember Pogs?
Yeah, I remember Pogs, man.
Yeah, remember what happened when you beat somebody in Pogs? You took their fucking Pogs.
Yeah, that's it.
They were yours. Like, that's kind of gambling.
Yeah, that's true, but it was, like, not illegal,
Well, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's very much the same thing, but somebody has then found a way to, like, take this whole system and exploit it by making it part of, like, a money laundering scheme where they then take these things. Like, I didn't take the Pogs that I won and then take them to the corner and fucking sell them. That's called sharking. You are sharking, motherfuckers.
All right, any of you guys have any other thoughts on this? I'm going to take that as a no. So
Man.
move on. Manny, you don't care, do you?
About gambling.
Yeah, the CSGO gamblers and shit, and Valve cracking down on them.
Well, you know what? The thing is, it always takes. Chris said it before. They're always very reactive. When somebody starts complaining, then they start going, "Oh shit, we gotta fix this."
So okay, this isn't going to be the end of these gambling sites. They're just going to be the end of these sites going through Steam. That's what they're cracking down on. But I didn't even know this underground thing existed until this thing. Crazy. So this whole story brought that to light.
Dude, underground gambling on pretty much anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Rule 34. Like,
Yeah, yes.
You remember Diablo? The Diablo had something like that too for a while.
Yeah.
yeah, well,
So
Diablo
the
fucking
items
asked for it because you could sell things you found in game for real world
Yep.
money.
Oh yeah, World of Warcraft did that same thing too.
By the way,
Yeah, I love how they're like, our response to gold farmers is we're gonna go ahead and break our game.
Oh man, I forgot what I was gonna say. I was looking at some very nice butt on Twitter. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Let's move on to the next story here. Okay, PS4 Neo specs were leaked, like more in detail. So I'm asking the tech head guys, Carlos and Chris, what's significant about this shit?
Oh wait, I had the notes open.
So pretty much, the Neo is a PS4 with improvements. To me, what it looks like.
Yeah.
So what I'm seeing, the CPU is pretty much the same CPU, except it clocks faster, so it's doing more at a quicker rate. And the GPU is the one that I don't understand what. Like there's an obvious difference, but I'm not too sure what they did to it. So it says uses improved version of AMD GCN CUs, more CUs at a higher frequency. I think CUs are computation units, and it says 36 CUs at 911 megahertz, and it says 2.3 times the flops. So the PS4, what I checked, the PS4's GPU did 1.84 teraflops.
Teraflops.
And it says it's 2.3 times faster than that one, or 2.3 times more computations. So I got 4.23 teraflops. So that's lower than the Scorpio, which I think it was 6.
Yeah, 6. Yeah, 6 teraflops.
6 teraflops. And the memory pretty much stays the same, and it's just a little bit faster, but everything else pretty much the same. The GPU is the only one getting significant boost, and the CPU is just clocked faster.
Yeah,
God
but I mean,
damn it.
Isn't it what it was supposed to be, though? It's just supposed to be a slightly better PS4.
You can't just clock the GPU faster, Tony. That's not actually a better system.
Okay, so give us your breakdown of this, Brett.
Well, it's not just clocked faster. It has the CUs are cores, right? So it has double the cores of the PS4, the current PS4.
Yeah, well, the GPU,
And
not
those,
the CPU.
Yeah, the GPU and all those cores are clocked faster.
Yeah, well,
Right.
Tony, to put it in, if you know much about specs and you look at the specs of this thing and compare it to the PlayStation 4, it's very clear that this is specifically designed to give you shinier graphics, but not really able to give you better gameplay.
Yeah, but they've said that from the outset.
No. I know that they've said that from the outside. It's just a little disappointing when you see it. Like, even if somebody wanted to, and I know that this was never going to happen, even if somebody wanted to come out with a game specifically for this version of the system, they couldn't change any of the gameplay. They couldn't change any of the core function of the game. All they can do is make it shinier.
Yeah, well, remember the whole thing with this, like, okay, we're gonna have shiny graphics, is they want parity. They don't want the.
I know, but it's weird. It's weird as a tech enthusiast to look at the specs on this thing and be like, this seems like a weird hamstrung version. Like, I would never build a PC like this because it seems like it just seems backwards. It's like I'm going to get a V4 car and put like racing tires and a spoiler on it, and you're like,
Brett, actually, it's kind of like PC gaming. You already have a system, right? You already have this rig, and you don't want to replace your CPU. You don't want to replace your RAM. What you do is you just replace your graphics card, and then you overclock your CPU, and that's pretty much what they did.
No, exactly, and that makes sense when you're upgrading a PC, and I think that's where I'm getting weird. Like, that makes sense when you're upgrading a PC. To build a new PC like that is weird, though.
Yeah.
But it's not supposed to be a new piece, a new console.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like, everything, like, it makes sense. It's going to do the exact same thing that they said it was going to do. It's going to do it how they said it was going to do. Like, nothing surprising. There's just the PC builder part of me looks at these specs and is like, it hurts my brain.
I see what you're saying, man. You know, But at least, as long as you understand what the goal of this console is, you know.
Yeah. But it's like going out right now and buying a 55-inch, super expensive 720p TV, and you're like, well, that seems a bit weird. You're like, well, I'm only gonna be playing Xbox games on it, so. And you're like, okay, I guess that makes sense, and I can see how you're doing that, but you're still buying a $5,000 720p TV. Like this, it just seems counterintuitive to me. But it's cool. It's gonna help with VR, but I don't know. I don't know why I found these specs disappointing. Just the spec nerd in me was just like, nah.
Yeah, because again, they've given you exactly what they said. Now, to be fair, these documents are about 3 months old, but at the same time, Sony's not going to make a super console.
Yeah.
They want parity. They said they don't want the experience of a normal PS4 player to be radically different than that of a PS4 Neo owner. And if you go online, it's going to be the same thing. There's not going to be any improvements at all. So
yeah, I feel a little bit bad. Like, shouldn't they have left the door open to maybe later in the generation making games just for Neo? Like,
they didn't want that.
I know they don't want that, but like, man, that seems like you're painting yourself into a corner, especially when Microsoft is going to be set up to be like, you know what? No, fuck it. This game's only for this version. Like, Microsoft has never said that.
Microsoft is doing that at their peril if they do that shit. People are going to be pissed if they do that.
Yeah, but when it comes time to roll over generations, who's going to be laughing?
Well, I mean,
when Microsoft just phases out the Xbox One and has basically just the Scorpio, and they start working in half generations where they have the Scorpio, and then they release a newer version of the Scorpio.
Then you have the PS5, dude. Then you have the PS5. The Blu-ray PS5 is coming in 2019, so there you go.
The Blu-ray PS5 is coming in 2019. How do we know? Really?
Yeah, that's what the the rumors are. It's coming out 2019 for PS5.
Okay, I'm still telling you, man. Like in a year and a half or 2 years from now, when Xbox says we're not going to make Xbox One games anymore, but we already have a next-gen system that's been on the market for 2 years. Now we're going to start taking advantage of its power, and Sony's sitting there being like, we're stuck with parity of the PS4 until we get a PS5 out. There's going to be a huge discrepancy of quality.
Oh yeah, I agree with you on that.
And Sony has left themselves in a position not to be able to address that by locking their parity in hardware.
But at the same time, you just have to wait until the PS5 comes out, and then you'll be ahead of the Xbox.
Will you, or will Xbox just release like the Xbox Celeste or whatever, and then they'll have like Scorpio and the new one?
Well, go ahead, Manny. I know you want to say something. Go ahead.
I was going to say though, I mean, the one thing about all of this is that we've been saying before is that Sony's not really out to be making a PS5. That's not what this is supposed to be for. And just who has the higher the bigger hold on the market? Sony does. So even if the Xbox whatever is a better has better specs inside of it, the only games that you'll be ever be able to see any of that any of that happen with is all the first-party games.
Not when Microsoft also also has their hands in the PC market. You could see games that can only run on PC or Microsoft. It cannot run on a PlayStation or on a Sony console.
I'm saying the only ones that you're going to see that are going to run, like you're going to actually see any of the stuff take advantage of whatever the Scorpio has to do is mostly the games that Microsoft specifically makes. The games
What about like Star Citizen? What about in 2 years when they have Star Citizen only on Microsoft products?
But the thing is it exclusive to that? Is it a console exclusive? Yes, then it will take advantage of it. But they don't have in other words, if the new Assassin's Creed comes out, it won't take advantage of the new Scorpio because that's not even the way developers develop. They usually develop for the console that has the highest that has the highest attach rate and usually that's the lowest, usually the one that they've developed for first.
Yeah, but there's
if you remember during the last generation, who had the bigger stranglehold, even though Sony had the more powerful console.
But none of that matters if Microsoft opens up the avenue to PC exclusives. The reason that you don't have a lot of these PC games on consoles is because the consoles aren't strong enough to do it. Like you can't run XCOM 2 very well on a console.
But
You won't be able to run Star Citizen very well on console. So when you get to the point where a console and only one console can run all of these games, suddenly you are having a market with a lot of exclusives. I mean, as soon as if Microsoft was able right now to pick up every game in the Steam library, they would have hundreds of console exclusives over Sony.
And the thing is that they probably can't.
They can't, but once they come out with Scorpio, they can if they beef up the processor. And at that point, you have a Scorpio system which can play games and can have exclusives that the PlayStation could not match. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just saying if we find ourselves in that position, that is a very bad place for Sony to be, because suddenly the market perception is going to be Sony has a weak system that can't even run current-gen games. And then they have to spend another year or whatever catching up to get a console to market, and they reenact the whole reason that they fell behind in the first place. Like this is dangerous territory that they're treading, in my opinion, because they're locking themselves out from being able to play next-gen games.
Go ahead, man, because I got something to say. Yeah, because they're going to be ahead of the curve when they come out with the PS5. So
what makes you think that, though? Like, here's my thing. If they're coming out with the PS5 in 2019, it is 2016 right now. In 2 years, when Scorpio is out and able to take on PC games,
2017, just so you know, and it's 2017.
Okay, so that's 2 years, dude. That is 2 years before Sony can directly compete with them again if they decide to go this direction. That nobody's and PS3 showed us. People don't want to wait 2 years for a system to come out because they like that brand. I will be honest. If Sony's going to drag their feet like that, I will jump to fucking Xbox. I'm not waiting 2 years on a subpar fucking console just because you decided that for the sake of parity you wanted to hamstring your own hardware. That's not my fucking problem, and I'm not going to sit there and take that shit.
Yeah, but remember, the Scorpio is supposed to be the same. Okay, it's not going to be to the extent of PS4, but it's still going to have that parity thing going on. Microsoft said that too. It said
didn't Microsoft say that they were? And I don't have the specs in front of me. Isn't Microsoft having a bigger jump in their CPU?
Yeah, the Scorpio is going to be more powerful than the PS4 Neo. That's not even a debate. It is going to be more powerful.
What's important though is the CPU power difference, because that's what you can play. You can take a game, right, that has shiny graphics and change the graphical disparity on it and release it on both systems. That's what they do now. But when you come to a point where, if you play this game on PlayStation, you can't have these certain gameplay mechanics, that is inexcusable, and that has never happened in console gaming before. You have never had features on one console that you don't have on another console. It's always just been a graphical.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is that I don't think anything like that is going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Microsoft already said that's not going to happen. You know?
What do you mean?
They're not going to have games that aren't forward compatible. Understand? The games that run on Xbox One, even the current Xbox One, will be able to be played on the Scorpio, and games that run on Scorpio will be able to play it on the current Xbox. They're not going to go crazy, you know.
In a couple years, when they would retire the Xbox One, yes, you would absolutely see games only for the Scorpio, not for Xbox One. That current marketing is for this point here and now.
But here's the thing. Okay, I know what you're getting at, but the thing is, okay, the current Xbox One, I'm glad you bring this up, will be retired when the Xbox One S comes out next month, right? So that's going to be the lowest common denominator, and that's going to be sticking around for a while. They're going to discontinue it in 2 years when the Scorpio comes out. Understand?
Okay. In 2 years, when the Scorpio comes out, then they will have two versions of Xbox, right?
Yes.
Let's call them Xbox A and Xbox B.
No, Xbox S, the Xbox One S. That's the actual name of it.
Okay, you're gonna have Xbox One S and Scorpio.
Yeah,
then they're gonna retire the One S, keep the Scorpio, release a more powerful version on top of the Scorpio, and have two systems.
Why would you retire the One S that quickly? It's coming out this year. They're gonna retire
Tony, I never specified a time frame. Keep in mind, I'm talking about years down the road. We're talking into 2019.
Okay.
So if they release the One S now, and in 2 years they retire the One S and make a version superior to the Scorpio the same way that Scorpio was superior to the One S, they could essentially double dutch their way through the console generations, always having one console that's powerful and then one that's more powerful on top of that. Do you see what I'm saying? They would retire the One S, keep the Scorpio, create a new Xbox.
But that's what Sony's going to be doing too. They're going to have.
But Sony doesn't have the intermediary. The PlayStation Neo will never. Hold on. The PlayStation Neo will always and only ever be a PlayStation 4 Plus. The Xbox Scorpio can, after the Xbox S1 is retired, be its own system. It will not be locked into the generation of its progenitor the way that a PlayStation will. So you have a potential of almost 2 years where Sony is pandering to its parity from the last generation, and Microsoft is not held to those same standards. That would allow Microsoft to open its doors to the Microsoft PC exclusives that currently can't run on console because they don't have enough power.
Also, nowhere in any of this has Sony ever said that there wasn't going to be another one. Remember that also the Neo is also supposed to come out sooner than the
Scorpio. Yeah.
Than the Scorpio.
That's right.
I thought that they had pretty much laid out the roadmap of it's going to be Neo and then PS5.
Yeah, it is going to be the Neo, but the Neo is coming out really soon. It's not coming out.
Yeah, and then the next system they're making after that is the PS5 in 2019, right?
Yeah,
in 3
exactly.
years.
But again, okay, Brett, I see what you're saying about the whole. There's going to be a 2-year gap, but at the same time, once that 2-year gap is over, Sony's going to have the more powerful console again. Because
that 2-year gap, or that year gap, the last time that Microsoft had a leg up on Sony, fucking obliterated it. It dethroned the motherfuckers. It
I agree with you.
half the industry into a tailspin. You can't just make light of that.
No, I'm not making light, but you have to take something into consideration. Okay, they started from scratch, right? A year out. They're not starting from scratch. They're starting with potentially 50 million consoles already on the market. People who buy the Scorpio, who buy the Neo, are going to be able to play every PlayStation 4 game. They're not going to lose those customers that are already there. You have to take that into consideration too.
I am. Okay.
From scratch,
look at it this way. It's 2018, beginning of 2018, right? Sony has the PlayStation Neo out. Microsoft has just decided that they are going to retire the S1 and are no longer worrying about the parity between the Scorpio and the S1. So therefore, the games that they are developing are strictly off of the hardware of the Scorpio. The S1 has nothing to do with it anymore. Meanwhile, Sony is still making games that have to be played on the original PlayStation 4, not the Neo. So PlayStation is making games that are cramped in their scope because of limited hardware, whereas Microsoft is free to make games that can tax the limit of their currently higher spec system. This continues for a year, and I ditch Sony and become a Microsoft fanboy.
But you're going on a hypothetical here. I'm trying to go on with Microsoft. Like you said, the Scorpio will have better graphics, but it's not going to be too crazy from the Xbox One S. They still want that parity too. Understand?
But they've also said that parity is not intended to last for the entire life cycle of the Scorpio.
They didn't say that. They pretty much did say, hey, as long as you have the Xbox One S, your games are going to be forward compatible and backwards compatible. So as long as they're not going to, I doubt they're going to retire the Xbox One S 2 years after it comes out. That's crazy talk to me. Especially given
2 years from now, 4 years after it's been out.
2 years from now. That's what you said.
Yeah, and how long? The Xbox didn't just come out. How long has the Xbox been out? 2 years?
Xbox been out. No, Xbox has been out 3 years, dude.
3 years.
Okay, so yeah, in 2 years, that'll mean that the Xbox has been out for 5 years, which is a perfectly legitimate life cycle for a console.
No, it is, but now that you have the S, it extends that life cycle, doesn't it?
No, the S is a dip. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, let's put it this way. Let's say the Xbox we have right now is Xbox 3, okay? Just for simplification matters, the third iteration of Xbox right now, okay? So it's Xbox 3. Scorpio is going to be Xbox 3.5, okay? And then eventually they'll come out with an Xbox 4.
Yeah.
And so right now they have Xbox 3 and 3.5. And then they'll retire Xbox 3 and release an Xbox 4. So then at that point it'll be Xbox 3.5 and Xbox 4. And they will start making games at the lowest common end of Xbox 3. Or 3.5. So at that point, Xbox 3.5 is competing directly against PlayStation 4. They're half a generation ahead because they're no longer coding for disparity of an outdated console. And the thing that I'm upset with Sony is they didn't put enough CPU power into their console to be able to change directions to compete with that later down the line if, in fact, Microsoft does go that route. And Microsoft would be very wise to recognize that and look at this and say, basically, look, all we have to do is get through the 5-year mark on the Xbox One. Then we'll release then the Scorpio will be out, and the Scorpio will be able to handle all of these games that we have on our other platform because we are a multi-platform company. So all of these things that run on Windows, we can now put on the Xbox Scorpio because they're powerful enough to run the Xbox Scorpio. Well, won't Sony do the same thing, you may ask? No, because the version of the console that Sony is stuck with at that point physically cannot run these games. So I'm talking about you get in a position where as soon as Microsoft retires the current Xbox, they have the ability to jump into the next generation significantly before PlayStation does. And by doing so, play games that cannot physically be played on a PlayStation, therefore cornering the market and flooding it with exclusives.
So
And
what
at
are they
that
going to do about people that can't play the games on the old Xboxes? They promise you'll be able to play these games. Understand?
you will be able to play Xbox S1 games on the Scorpio. They never said that every game you play on the Scorpio you will be able to play on the Xbox One.
Okay, you're right about that, but every game that you can play on the S can be played on Xbox
Exactly.
and vice versa.
It only matters. That only matters until they retire the Xbox S1. When they officially say this generation is over, they already have a console in millions of people's homes with the ability. It'd be like sending a software upgrade to every Xbox. It is in fact the secret sauce. The Xbox Scorpio that you already own, as soon as they retire the Xbox S1, they take more advantage of the power in that thing, and your games jump up. It would be like releasing a secret sauce through an internet download. You already have then the market share in people's homes. You already have a leg up on getting this generation bump forward. And then, and I'm not saying it's going to happen this way, but you run the very real risk of, as a Sony fan, having to sit there listening to fucking Xbox fans say, not only do your games look like shit, your console isn't powerful enough to even play next generation games, and you have no fucking exclusives. I'm sitting here playing on a console, 1.5 times as powerful as yours, enjoying these awesome games that you can only get on Steam or Xbox because your console is too fucked up and shitty to be able to play these games. And as a Sony fan, that is a nightmare for me. And at that point, I'm like, you're fucking right. I'm going to Xbox. Their games are better. They have more games. They have exclusives. Everything looks and plays better. Everything on Sony plays like a generation old game, and it feels constrictive.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up something Blackstar said. Great point. He goes, if they do what you're suggesting, Xbox is they're gonna abandon their 30 million players to start from zero. Meanwhile, Sony's gonna have 50 million players and keep going.
We're not going to abandon 30 million people. We're talking about retiring.
No.
We're talking
about, dude.
No, we're talking about retiring a console 5 years after it was released and having a new version of the same service available in order to upgrade. Gone are the days of an 8-year console cycle. That shit is fucking gone. Technology moves too fast, and I know a lot of people that thought the last console generation was too long, and even the people that thought it was too short were sure as shit ready for a next-gen experience when it came.
Yeah, so, but again, it sounds to me like you think Xbox is going to abandon all these guys, even though
that's like saying PlayStation abandoned all of its fans when it made PlayStation 4. It did not.
But didn't it? Don't you abandon the old guys? Don't you basically start from zero as soon as you start another console generation? You do something. You can't play your old. You can't play. Can you play PS3 games on your PS4?
But see, that's the thing. Everybody who already owns a Scorpio, because it's part of this generation, will already be married into Xbox's next generation. That's my point. If you have 30 million people who have an Xbox Scorpio, when they do stop producing for the Xbox S1, you have 30 million people who already have this quote-unquote next-gen system in their hands. And so then what you do is you give them a new kind of game. You increase the gameplay, right? And then a couple years later, you release an Xbox Scorpio Mark II, whatever, that's half again as powerful. And you're like, hey, you know all these new game mechanics you've gotten used to? Now you can play them with even more visual fidelity. And you keep doing that. You introduce new game mechanics, you increase the visual fidelity. You increase new game mechanics through a CPU, you increase the game fidelity through...
Sony's going to do the same thing.
Not necessarily, because they have built a system that doesn't have the ability to act as an intermediary between two generations. It is simply not strong enough.
But
even
that's
if they
what
retired,
the Neo is.
No, and that's my point. The Neo is not powerful enough to do that job, and the Scorpio is.
Okay, hold on. Okay, let's compare the Neo and the S, the Xbox One S. So you're telling me they don't serve the same purpose?
No, the Neo and the Xbox One S do. The Neo and the Scorpio do not. The Scorpio outclasses the Neo.
Yes, but that was never in question. We know that already. You know.
Okay. So when you're saying there is an Xbox Scorpio system out and a PlayStation Neo system, do you think that the PlayStation Neo system will be able to play these same games that the Xbox Scorpio system can play? Do you not think that there will be games that can be played on the Scorpio and PC that are not the Neo is just simply not powerful enough to play?
I'm going off what Microsoft said. they're not gonna make any games that can't be played on the S. Okay, if the S is comparable to the PS4, right? If to PS4 Neo, you can't make a game that can't be played on it.
So
That's what I'm trying to get at.
So you really think that they're going to make the Xbox Scorpio and just let it wither on the vine until Xbox 5 comes out, and then they're going to come out with a brand new Xbox to try and compete with the Xbox or the PlayStation 5?
This is the new paradigm, man. These are the new generation cycles.
No, not at all, dude. This is what they're doing is they're doubling down. They're hedging their bets. They are already getting the next gen system in your hands halfway through this generation. Gone are the days, and that's the thing. We are not waiting 8 years between cycles. We are now processing the world in half cycles. Is my point.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. That's what's happening now. The PS4 Neo is that halfway point. Then you get the PS5. Then you get the PS5 Neo.
So you think the current PS4, not the Neo, but the current PS4, will be in use until the PlayStation 5 comes out?
Yeah, you know there's going to be people using it.
Okay, so you don't think that they're doing half generations then? You are thinking that they're sticking to full generations, that they are going to support
I'm not saying
the original PlayStation 4 until the PlayStation...
You do realize people still using the Samsung Galaxy S3 out there, right? People don't move, not everybody just goes to the next generation right away. There's still going to be stragglers there.
Exactly why half generations are implemented to work so well. I virtually guarantee you they're not going to support the original... Well, PlayStation might... So Microsoft will probably not support the original Xbox, the Xbox One, until their next generation comes out. They will meter it out in half generations. They will retire the Xbox S1 before they retire the Scorpio, and then eventually the Scorpio will become the bottom of their heap.
I think
the Scorpio will play backwards and forward compatible games.
But Microsoft themselves said both consoles are going to exist concurrently, just like Sony said both those.
No. Microsoft said they were going to exist concurrently. Sony said there was always going to be parity between the two systems. That's the difference. In 2 years,
Sony did say they're going to exist together, though. They flat out said that.
No, they did. But in 2 years, Microsoft can say, you know what, we're going to make a game just for the Scorpio. And you'll be like, will it be on the S1?
Okay,
and they'll say no.
But that's a hypothetical, though. I'm trying to go with what they said. Understand? And I don't.
No, I do understand. And to a certain extent, if you're going off just what they said, you are correct. I'm not arguing that fact. But what I'm saying is Sony has put themselves in a position that if Microsoft does decide to go that way, they have no defense against it because they have locked this change in stone.
I see what you're saying, but again, it's a big if. It's a big if. I'm going. I
don't think it's a big if. I think Microsoft has been pretty clear in the sense that this is the Scorpio is the half step towards the next generation. When they release the next gen Xbox, the Scorpio will still be in play. It'll be the little brother. You'll be able to play a game on Scorpio or a visually upscaled game on the next generation of Xbox, and they'll be able to do that because the Xbox has more CPU, and CPU is what changes the structure, the game mechanics of the game itself. After that, they can just upscale it on the GPU and make it have a higher.
I disagree with you. I mean, the Scorpio will be in play, but the thing is, again, I'm not comparing the Scorpio to the Neo. They're not the same kind of system,
So here's what I'm saying. So in 2 years, or in a few years, So in a few years, when Microsoft will have the ability to release an exclusive game on their console that cannot be copied by the other gaming console, you think that they're really going to say no to all that money?
It depends on the market.
Based on a promise that they never made, and that people just assume that they're
did, though. No, they said it already. They said it.
Sony is the one that said there was always going to be parity between the two systems. Microsoft has never promised that.
Yes, they did, dude. Yes, they did. They said it at their fucking conference. They said you're going to be able to play. There's going to be parity between the. They said the
S1 will be backwards and forwards compatible. They didn't state about the Scorpio.
Yeah, with the Scorpio.
That's true. Yeah.
Phil Spencer did say
vaporware at this point. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Phil Spencer did say later in an interview that. You're not going to want to buy a Scorpio unless you have a 4K TV.
Yeah, he did say that,
Yeah, if he's saying that, then definitely there's going to be a huge graphic fidelity difference between the current Xbox One and Xbox One S and the Scorpio. And any game that is backwards compatible could always have like downscaling set in it so that it takes advantage of the Scorpio and it looks amazing on there, and then downscales enough to run on the Xbox One, but the Scorpio One will always be superior. And then I have said this before that I think eventually Microsoft will go, okay, Scorpio is the system now. We're done with Xbox One, and we're moving to this, and then games made exclusively for Scorpio will take full advantage of the hardware. They don't need to worry about downscaling and making it compatible with the Xbox One, right? And then, as Brett is saying, if you have the Neo locked in the specs it has, then Scorpio is technically the more powerful system, right? And then if you open up the possibility of porting PC games back to Scorpio, then yeah, their library does get a lot bigger. And that's where he's saying the difference is coming in.
Yeah, not that anybody's won, but if you walk into battle with both your hands held out to your sides, like, dude, you're kind of leaving yourself open. Like, no, you haven't gotten stabbed yet, but you are really leaving the option open for somebody to just rush in and Rochambeau you. Like, I don't know what Microsoft's game plan is.
So you think Microsoft is just say, hey, you know that thing we said about parity? Fuck it, we're gonna win now.
No, I think what you're here's, and I think they very carefully said this. The Xbox S1 will have parity to the Scorpio, but the Scorpio is not tied to parity of the Xbox S1. Like, I think that's the thing. Like, the games will be backwards and forwards compatible, but as soon as they say, we're done fucking with the S1, the Scorpio is our system now, they no longer are privy to those promises of parity that they made before.
Yeah, and they only do that if there's more people on the Scorpio than on the S1. They're not gonna, if they have more people on the S1, they're not gonna do that.
And that's what they're doing right now. They're releasing the Scorpio. They're going to build their market share, and then when they have a market share safely in their pocket, they'll transition. It's much less risky to do it that way than, as you said, try and rebuild an entire new market share with each subsequent generation. You lock them in, you get them locked into the ecosystem, you upsell them, and then you tell them that the thing that they already have, that upsell, that new high-end thing, it's kind of like PC. Like, I build a high-end PC right now, right? And it's high-end. In a couple years, it's a low-end PC, but I can still play the same games. And so what do? I upgrade my PC, and I kind of leapfrog. At no point am I not able to play a game. I'm already part of the ecosystem, and I just kind of jump forward a little bit.
Yeah, but that's what Sony's going to be doing too, though.
Yeah, but then the problem.
Every PS4 game is going to be able to be played on the PS5.
Exactly, Tony. You know? Thank you for pointing that up. So what you're saying is, if I want to stay up to date with Sony's current generation console, I have to buy a Neo, and then I have to buy a PS5 when the next generation comes out. What Microsoft is doing is saying, you can buy a Scorpio now and have the very top end of this generation, and then that same Scorpio, when we roll over to the next generation, will also play next-gen games. So it will be this generation and next generation.
How is that different than Sony going, hey, here's the PS5, and then we're going to
Because it's the nature of the games, Tony. You're only looking at the graphic fidelity. Sony cannot...
Right, here's the thing, and I'm realizing now, you and I are arguing the same thing from different standpoints. PS5 is going to come out. PS5 Neo. There's always going to be those increments in between now. But
you're missing something, though. A PS4 Neo will never be able to play a PS5 era game.
How do you know that?
Because the fucking the specs on it. It does not have enough CPU, computer processing, not RAM, but computer.
Someone's not going to be stupid enough to abandon like potentially 50 million people like that when they've already said that there's going to be fucking parity between their systems.
No, exactly, because Sony is focusing on parity, and Microsoft has eschewed parity in a risky but potentially beneficial move down the line.
How have they eschewed parity? They've said they're going to have parity too, dude.
Okay, Tony. Let me put it this way. Tony, just
Brett, let me finish. You're going on this whole hypothetical that Microsoft is gonna say fuck it, just Scorpio exclusive games. You don't know that, dude.
I am telling you that a Scorpio can play a next-gen game. A Neo cannot play a next-gen game.
How do you know that?
Because I looked at the specs, Tony.
Dude, you can have a downgraded game.
You can't. Not in gameplay mechanics, Tony. You don't understand how this works.
About gameplay mechanics.
Dude, do you understand the difference between GPU and CPU?
Yes, I do. One's for the graphics, one's for the memory. I get that.
Okay, and you realize the memory is what dictates AI, gameplay mechanics, things like that, right?
But you're going on a hypothetical. The Scorpio games are going to be so. Hold on, let me finish. You're going on this hypothetical. The Scorpio games are going to be so much more superior gameplay wise that you're not going to see that.
No, I'm not.
On PlayStation.
No, I'm not. You're putting words in my mouth.
But that is what you're saying, though.
No,
dude.
I'm not.
You're saying.
Okay.
You're saying. You're
Dude,
saying,
let me finish. Stop
you're
arguing.
not letting me finish. What the fuck are you talking about? You've been cutting me off this whole time, man. I'm trying to tell you, your hypothetical is stipulating that the the Scorpio is going to be so much superior in every way that the PlayStation will not be able to hang, and I disagree with that.
I am telling you, looking at the specs of the two machines, you could have a games that are released right now on PC that could not run on the specs of an Xbox Neo and can run on the specs of an Xbox Scorpio. That is a fact. That is not negotiable. That is not subjective. That is a fact, and we cannot argue that any more than Xbox fans can argue that their console is more powerful than the PlayStation. These are simple paper specs. The Xbox Scorpio can play games that the PlayStation Neo cannot. Star Citizen, there's one right fucking there.
But you hit on the head though. It can't. Okay, just because you can doesn't mean it will, because they still have to be comparable to the Xbox One S, which is the same as a PS4 Neo. So they can't go crazy. Understand? They're still going to be locked by the previous one. Understand? And the Xbox One S still has to abide by the Xbox One. So even if the Scorpio has all this crazy power you're talking about, they still can't go forward with it anyway, because they have to be comparable to the last generation.
Until they say that the Xbox One S is no longer the Xbox, that the current generation is now Scorpio, just as Chris had said, and they decide to start developing for the Scorpio. At that point, you have an Xbox Neo in the wild and a PlayStation an Xbox Scorpio and a PlayStation Neo in the wild, and they cannot play the same games.
But here's the thing, though,
basically, what you're saying is that Microsoft has said that they're going to hamstring themselves, so we can expect them to hamstring themselves for the rest of the generation instead of taking obvious money and advantage. And I don't foresee that happening, because that's not how companies work.
Okay,
especially when Microsoft has never actually said that the Xbox Scorpio will always be beholden to the S1. They said the S1 will be able to play downscaled versions of the Scorpio's games, but when they stop supporting the S1 as the official contender, then you have an Xbox Scorpio, which is, quote, backwards and forwards compatible, because it can play downgraded versions of their new next-gen titles.
By the time the Xbox One Scorpio, Xbox One S is retired, the PS5 is already going to be out in the wild.
But you don't know that. And what I'm telling you is it's
they're not going to kill the console in 2 years. They're not going to do that. The Xbox.
Dude, if they kill the console in 2 years, that's a 5-year life cycle generation. Why wouldn't they?
Because you gotta see it as a mini relaunch. Understand?
No, I am.
Now you have the Xbox One S coming out this year. They're not going to kill it in 2 years. They're going to kill it in another 3 or 4 years.
Dude, that's no. They always come out with a slim version a couple years before they move on to the next generation. That's all that this is. It's an Xbox Slim, which is just another way to bump sales halfway through a console.
You realize it's more powerful than the Xbox One, right?
I do, but it doesn't actually matter, because it's just a little bit of upscaling. That's just them doing damage control over the fact that Sony has higher specs than them. It's not going to change anything except calm down some fanboys.
Yeah, but again, I just see it as every company's going to be doing the same thing, these iterative little things, So I don't see how anyone's going to be too much in the back for too long when you have another 2 years to release another console. So I don't really see the problem here, But as is being pointed out in the comments, we are going in circles here, so let's end it there. We'll see, I guess, And the last thing here, just for fun. So Nintendo's going to release a mini version of the Nintendo Entertainment System for the 30th anniversary. I predict this thing's going to sell more than the Wii U this year.
Well, I'm surprised that it was that cheap. I was like,
what was it, $60 or something?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's like I expected this to be like $150 or something. It's like,
what? This thing? You know how many of these things are out there with Atari, ColecoVision, and Television, where they just lump? This is a fucking tchotchke board. This is a Raspberry Pi embedded in this case. To take advantage of nostalgia, preloaded with 20, 30 games.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. It's Nintendo.
Yeah, I know it's Nintendo, but anybody could do this. It's it's about 20-something years late to the party where I have every Nintendo NES game on my PSP already. So it's good job.
But Chris, it's one of these things we talk about it. Invisibles, right? No one cares about Invisibles because it's not Nintendo, you know.
Right. They put this out, but it's like I have a Genesis like that that can actually play Genesis cartridges, right? It's a third-party Genesis, and it's preloaded with like 100 Genesis games. But I can still play Genesis cartridges, and that thing only costs like $30. So this thing, I doubt you can play NES games on there, right? If you have any, it's just a little box with some storage on it. Probably like how much memory do NES games need? A whole 4 megabytes for all those games?
Yeah, like you said, it's probably like a Raspberry Pi with a really small SD card. And
yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, of course people will find it important because they made it, but anybody, could make this. I mean, look, I have the Retron. I could play any, like 4 or 5 different, classic systems on there, but we actually have the games. Like, this is just preloaded stuff. Like, I don't see why they even need to sell it for that much, except, like, they need money, so.
Well, it's Nintendo, By the way, I want to give a shout out to my editor, Matthew Humphreys. I was talking to him about, he actually posted this story on Geek.com. I was talking about it. He's like, dude, what people should do is just crack this thing open, throw an actual Raspberry Pi in there that has, like, hundreds of games. And
play Sega games.
Yeah. And it comes with a Nintendo controller too, which is pretty fun. I don't know. To me, it's pretty fun. Chris, I don't disagree with you about that they're charging too much for something that's already been around forever. But I don't know. To me, at least Nintendo's doing something people like. They got they got Pokemon Go, now they got this. People are pretty excited about this shit.
Yeah, to me, I mean, $60 to play those games with a controller, and it looks good on your shelf. I mean, I don't mind it.
Yeah, I'll do that shit. That'll be the first Nintendo console I buy since the Super Nintendo.
Is it multiplayer?
I don't know. It's a good question, Brett, because
it looks
it depends on the game.
Yeah, I mean, multiplayer. If somebody comes over your house, you play it with him.
Well, no, that's what I thought, but like I didn't actually see any specific statement as to whether or not you could plug 2 controllers into it.
Yeah, there's it's on the picture. There's 2 ports on the front.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't know if that. Maybe I'm being a cynic here, but I immediately went, okay, it looks like a Nintendo, but can you plug 2 controllers into that motherfucker?
Okay. I hate to say this, but let's give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt and assume you could plug 2 controllers into it. Oh man.
Yeah, I think it's multiplayer. It comes with Super Contra, so.
Is it just me, or is the controller sold separately? I don't understand that.
Yes, it is sold separately.
Oh no.
I mean, like, do you have to buy? Okay, so you buy the console and then you have to buy the controller.
I saw the packages for both, and it was a console package and a controller package, and they were separate.
That's what I mean. So if you buy the console, you need to buy the controller with it too. Otherwise,
yeah, but on the console box, there's a picture of a controller plugged into it. So it might come with 1 controller.
Okay.
I thought they also said the controller was going to be able to be used with the Wii system for downloading retro games.
Did they?
I believe so.
I think that's what people wanted. I don't know if it does that.
I'm not sure. I can't source the article, but yeah, the article I was reading was saying that, the controller would also be able to be used for their, I think, the Wii U system.
Yeah, the port looks like the port on the Wii.
Yeah, you're right, Brett. It's right here. Yeah, it's also compatible with the Wii and Wii U for playing virtual console games. Okay, you're right. There you go.
So that would be a good reason to sell them separately, because some people just want the controller, some people need the controller and the console.
Yeah.
And that way they can say the console only costs $60 and then charge you another $30 for the controller and be like, we never said that the console wasn't $90, or we never said the console was $80. We said it was $60.
Hey, it's just like PlayStation VR, right? It's $400. Asterisk. You got to buy other shit in order for it to work. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure, like I said, it's gonna outsell the fucking Wii U. I'll tell you that right now. For this year, because people are going nuts for this thing. But again, it's Nintendo, right? But what does it say that about people that they're so hyped up about this?
They love their childhood.
Tony.
Yeah.
It's the same thing I would say about people who are crazy about remasters and definitive editions.
Well, the same thing. Is it though? Because think about it like this, right? A remaster, you played it maybe 5 years ago tops, right? This you haven't played for 30 years, so is it exactly the same?
Yeah, but I gotta rant a little bit.
Of course you do.
Yeah, Nintendo's definitely taking advantage of everyone's nostalgia, and here's why. They have had a virtual console, so you've had the ability to put out classic games on 2 generations of systems, or actually more, because you were able to do that on 3DS as well. So they've done underhanded things like Super Nintendo games now being put out in the eShop will only run on the new Nintendo 3DS, which I think is scummy because you know full well that the 3DS, the difference between the 3DS and the new 3DS is literally putting 1 gerbil on a hamster wheel and 2 gerbils on a hamster wheel. So don't give me that fucking bullshit. That the new Nintendo 3DS only has the power to run Super Nintendo games. Scott Moffat can go drown in a fucking vat of Pepsi for all I care. That bullshit. So, and then the next thing is that so they've been taking advantage of everyone's nostalgia, licensing things here and there, separating things oddly between the virtual consoles and not knowing what to do. And then now their brilliant idea is like, hey, everybody wants to play classic games. Hey, genius! You just woke up like 15 years later that people like classic games. So it's like, let's sell this device and these controllers will make so much money. So good job taking advantage of everyone.
Oh man! By the way, someone did point out that only 2 of the games in this collection are not on the virtual console. You know, so if you have all these games, you don't really need this. And conversely, if you have all these games physically for your actual Nintendo, you don't need this either. But that's besides the point.
I don't know, man. Even if you have all those games for your actual Nintendo, at this point, like, you need to start worrying about how they're gonna save. Like, I'm not going to go around like playing an original Nintendo console that I have right now because that motherfucker is going to die soon.
Yeah. Ooh,
but Brett, you have a PC and emulators and the internet. Like, you're good to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By the way, I hope you guys don't mind if I toss in one more story here because this is tied to this. Can't believe I forgot about this. This is one of my favorite systems. They finally cracked the Sega Saturn's DRM. Finally happened. So so basically, I'll link you guys to the story. Who wrote it? Oh, I wrote this shit. I write so many stories a week. I'm like, who wrote this shit? I'm like, I wrote it. So basically, what was going on with the Saturn? The reason it hasn't been able to be cracked for years is because every disc has a specific mark on it on the edge of it. If the Sega Saturn doesn't read that wobble, it wouldn't detect the disc at all, right? So somebody circumvented. I was like, okay, let's make this thing USB compatible. There's a switch not a switch. There's a port in the back of the Saturn. So they circumvented it to be able to make the games just run on USB on an actual Sega Saturn console. That's really fucking cool. You know, that it saves the console from extinction, you know. So many great games on the Saturn. Now people actually be able to, this thing isn't available to buy yet. The guy's still fixing it and stuff, but pretty cool what you could do if you really put your fucking mind to it, you know.
Wait, so you weren't able to like get those games to play them somewhere else, like on a PC emulator or anything?
Nah, you couldn't do it, you know.
Shit, I didn't know
Crazy,
that.
right? Yeah, just because of that wobble, basically, you know. I didn't even know about that shit. So, and this guy who did this, he also like made a USB compatible Game Boy. He did that too, you know. So he was able to do this with the Saturn. When you guys have time, check out this video. It's actually really fucking cool. But Sega Saturn, that's one of my favorite consoles of all time. So I'm glad it's gonna be, you know, I guess brought back some way. You know, if this guy did it, somebody else is gonna improve the formula. So I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, nostalgia, man. And especially, you know, if the game industry keeps going the way it's going, maybe nostalgia is all we're going to have left. You know? Like, fuck this shit. I'm just going to play the old stuff. It's too stupid now. And that pretty much does it for us here. Carlos, once again, I want to thank you for coming on last minute. Like, I literally just dragged this guy. Carlos, man, can you make it? So thanks for that, man.
No problem, man. Anytime.
And by the way, for you guys who may not know Carlos, right? This guy is an avid anime collector, man. Tell some of the shit you've been buying recently.
Yes, recently I've been getting into manga. Actually, I've been reading a lot of stuff. Well, not recently, but I showed the guys in Otanime my new collection, and it's getting pretty steep. I've bought, I don't know, maybe like almost 20 series of manga, and they're like pretty sufficient series. Like some go up to like 20 volumes. But yeah, like I'm starting to collect manga because it's better to read it physically. Because I used to just read it online. But man, having that art in your hands, it's just different.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. That's why I love you know, reading comics on a tablet because you get it digitally, but it's still something in your hands. You know?
It kind of feels the same.
Yeah. I mean, I prefer paper, but it's better than reading it on the screen. You know. It's cool because you can just do it where you want, man. But yeah, Carlos, man, you guys don't know if you check out his Twitter, please make sure you follow him on Twitter. The guy, you know, he posts some pictures like, whoa, that's impressive shit. And you just bought all this stuff last month? Crazy, man. All right, so let's start wrapping this up. So before that, please make sure to check out the React podcast. We actually did a new episode of that. I was talking to Charles about Civil War 2, number 3, and we're both pretty like hyped up about it because I think now the series, I don't know if it's any better, but it's definitely made itself more relevant. So we talked about that with JJ and Antonio, not JJ from the Coalition, JJ Walker, you know, from the basically being the panel guys talking about comics, good shit. So please make sure to check that out on the Coalition channel. And that's that. So thank you for watching and listening. Make sure to follow the Coalition at thecoalition.com. Also help support the site by donating to the Patreon page. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Throwdown Show. Links are available in the description below. Once again, our show is Tony Polanco and Taz, joined by Emilio Lopez. Say something. Yo, man, you fucking it up. Later, guys. All right, that's me. That's my main impersonation. Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Brett Murdock.
It's been real, people.
And Carlos Romero.
Peace.
All right, guys. Later.
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 Deuces.